You ready? Call to order the April 23rd equalization hearings. We're going to have Shannon start first, and he will tell us who's coming up and what we're going to be doing first on our list. So Shannon, if you could, please.
Good morning. So we've got a schedule with property owners all day today. There's a few of them that we have heard just lately that they won't be here, and I'll announce that, but pretty much expecting most people to be here. There's a few people that we'll have to call that wanted to do a phone hearing. The first thing we're going to do, that first line you see on the schedule says stipulation and no changes. So I need to explain that our staff has met with everybody, met with or talked to everybody that has filed an appeal. And there's one or two that we just had no contact other than a mailing address, but almost all of them we've met with, talked to, gone out, looked at the property, or offered to. There are some properties where we have found that our data, our property information was incorrect, and we have changed that and come up with a different value, but we cannot make any changes to an assessment once assessment notices are mailed. Only this board can, that meets in public. So on those where we think we've got some wrong information and we know that the value is incorrect, we will make a recommendation to you to change that value. If the property owner is happy with that recommendation, they've chosen not to appear here, and we've put all of those on one list, and we call it a stipulation list. All of those properties that we have a recommendation to change, we put on a list, provide it to you, and you can act on all of those at once. And that saves acting on them individually and the property owner coming in when they already know what we're going to recommend. The second list is where we make a recommendation for no change in the assessment, and we have told the property owner that, so the property owner knows that we think the value is fine, and we're going to recommend that the board doesn't change it. Put all of those on a list. So maybe act on these separately, and I'll explain that no change list. We've got a couple of the property owners on that at the last minute have decided to come in. So let's act on that stipulation list. Let's see, it's 2019 Pennington County Equalization Board STIP list. There's several pages there. All of those property owners we've contacted, talked to, and we've got a recommendation to change the value. Unless you have any questions on any one of those, I would suggest you just move to approve the changes that we recommend.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve the 2019 Pennington County Equalizations Board STIP list.
Motion by Commissioner DeSanto, second by Commissioner Drews. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Shannon?
Okay, so those were properties where we saw that our value, for whatever reason, was incorrect, and we made a recommendation to the board to change it. Every other appeal, we either think the value is okay, or we'll have a recommendation to change it, and the property owner is still unhappy with that recommendation. Okay, but the next list we've got, 2019 Pennington County Equalization Board's no change list. This is where we split this list up. These are all of them where we recommend no change to the assessed value. We've talked to the property owner. They know we're going to make this recommendation, whether they're happy or not. They chose not to appear here, but we've explained why we think the value is fine. There's two exceptions to this. On the first page, maybe 2/3 of the way down, David and Linda Long. And on the second page, second from the last, Helen Reedy, I think is how you pronounce it. Okay. Those two property owners here, since we've printed this list, have requested the opportunity to come here before the board. And I would suggest that you move to approve no change in the assessment with the exception of those two properties, and then hear from those property owners right after this.
Madam Chair, I'd make that motion.
Commissioner Drews made a motion. Is there a second on the no change?
Second.
Second by Ross Connect. Any discussion?
What was the second one again? Reedy? Reedy to the last?
Second to the last one, Helen Reedy?
Okay.
Reed? Sorry?
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve the no change list except for the exception of David Long and Helen Reed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Okay, so what happens next is throughout the day, the property owners will come up here and explain to you why they think their property assessment is incorrect. And an appraiser from my office who is familiar with the property will make a recommendation to change to some number or no change and explain the reasoning behind that. And you can ask the appraiser from my office or the property owner questions. And I would suggest that maybe we start with David and Linda Long. Trevor from my office is familiar with that property, and if the Longs want to come forward.
Just your name, please.
Linda Long.
David Long.
And
And Trevor Abernathy with Pennington County Equalization.
Trevor, would you like to give us an explanation first?
I guess I would defer that to the Longs here, since they're disagreeing with us, they can explain their reasoning there.
And do we have the papers up there? There's the house and the information, Ms. Deb, so the commissioners. Okay, it's a,
How do we end up with?
this is the house, and how about the information about their house and the changes, I guess is what we need
If
to
you
know.
would rather me go first, I can definitely do that.
That would be good,
And
Trevor,
then I
please.
can kind of address some of the things that they have as well. So again,
Okay.
my name is Trevor with Pennington County Equalization. I'm an appraiser there. We'll be discussing David and Linda Long's property. It's tax ID 662. And I have, since this was kind of late in coming, I've got a sheet here that you can kind of refer to. There's what I'm going to give them as well.
Thank you, I appreciate it, Trevor.
Trevor, that 662, is that
669, I think.
669? Is that the? No, it's 662. So maybe a
Incorrect
different
on
one
here.
on here? Oh, okay, okay.
Thanks, Trevor.
Do they have more than one property, or no?
Nope, this is the only
Okay.
property, and
Okay.
if you're looking at the screen with the rapid map there, this is located approximately 7 miles out Nemo Road, up on Miller Flats, and off of Trooper King Road there. So this highlighted parcel is the parcel in question there. So what we have here is land that consists of an acre in size. It has community water with a shared well and a private septic system. The residence is a two-story ranch, or a one-story ranch, excuse me, over no basement, it's just on a slab. And it's built in 1980 with 1,716 square feet above grade. It has 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and we have the home in very good condition. I did take a look at the home for this appeal on the 5th of April, and it matched, as far as the condition goes, what we had down from the previous reappraisal, that it had been remodeled. The interior has new flooring, new doors, new trim, counters, cabinets in the kitchen, bathrooms. Everything's been redone on the inside. The windows were new in 2005, and the roof is also newer. There's also a large detached garage, if you want to show that, Ann. The detached garage is 1,040 square feet. It's 26 by 40. It is insulated and finished with OSB as well. There has been a shed that's added onto the property, or onto the detached garage on the side there, but this is what the garage looks like from the front, so. And as far as the comparable properties that I have here, the best 2 comparables that I have, if you want to go back to those, Ann. Comparable sale number one is on 8545 Heather Drive. This is a couple miles closer to town here. It does have a basement, however, it's similar square footage above grade, and we do have to make an adjustment for that basement. But it does have community water, a private septic, smaller garage, and the sale needs an adjustment for time. But that one did sell late in 2016 for $277,900 and indicates a value of $282,900 for the subject property. I also have, they have some comparable sales that they'll be going over as well, but comp number two is one of their comparables that they have. It's on the same, in the same area, right on Gary Owen Drive, just basically right around the corner from their house. This needed an adjustment for time as well, since it was an older sale with, sold in 2016. But it is similar in the fact that it's 1,800 square feet on a crawl space, so there's no basement. It has a detached garage similar to the subject property. The home is well maintained, however, it's mainly original as far as the siding, the windows, the kitchen, the bathrooms. It is well maintained, but it's needs an adjustment for condition because the subject property has been remodeled completely on the inside with new windows on the outside and a newer roof as well. So it did need an adjustment for that. That indicates a value for the subject property of $262,900. The other three sales that I have here are off of Highway 44, West Highway 44, which is Rimrock Highway. Comps 3 and 5 are both on a crawl space, and they're similar square footage, right in that 1,700 square foot range. Comp 4 is a similar year build and very similar condition, as it has a recent remodel on the inside and the outside as well. However, it's quite a bit smaller. It's only about 860 square feet, so there's an adjustment needed for the size. With all of these, I'm recommending no change to the assessment that we have of $264,200, and that is broken down as $49,500 on the land and $214,700 on the house and the detached garage.
Commissioners, today we're just going to have you ask questions, and you don't have to address the chair, just address the applicant and the assessor today. It's just a lot easier than you having to keep saying chair for questions you have today. So if anybody has any questions of Trevor or the Longs, we'll go ahead and let the Longs do their presentation.
Well, the reason that we decided to appeal this is we just don't think we could sell our house for this value. So if we can't sell it for that value, I don't think it should be appraised at that value. Our son is a realtor, so he's helped us with this. He's got comparables from our neighborhood, and one of our arguments is our neighborhood is not worth that. Our neighborhood is just well, it's a nice neighborhood, but it's not, I wouldn't pay this for our house in that particular neighborhood. At the value that it is, the square footage comes out to $154 a square foot. Do you agree with that, Trevor? Is that what you?
I would have to do the
Yeah.
math on it.
If you go with average sales in our neighborhood, the average square foot is 111. I guess those are our main arguing points. We just don't think that the house is worth that. Oh, one thing I should add too is we went back and made a chart of the increase in our value since we bought the house in 2011. And I guess we really missed the boat when we did not appeal back in 2017 when it went up 45%. Why it went up 45% that year when it's gone up, just a little.
Would they like a copy of this to see what we're talking about?
I don't know if you
We've
wanna
got the
look.
years listed.
That'd be fine. We can look at that if you'd like. I'll just
Could I
pass it
approach you?
down. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Long. You're okay, honey. Me and Gary can share one.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioners, we have discussion or a motion here?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Vossen.
Trevor, on this sheet here that we all got,
Yep.
it'd be much more helpful to me as an appraiser to know the square footage of the home, because I analyzed everything per square foot. So those comps that you had, without knowing more details, the location, the site size, the site value, the views. There's just not enough information for me to say yay or nay on this. If I knew the square footage of all those and I could look at the assessed value per square foot, the last sale per square foot, it would just help me
Yeah, I can,
make a decision, but I don't have the square footage of this home, so I can't even do any calculations here.
I can definitely show you there. It was 1,716 square feet in the subject. And if it's up here on the comp sales page, up there on the screen, which is right over there, we do have the square footage. It was just down at the level of the photos there. So the first comparable property was 1,632 square feet above grade. It had a 640 square foot basement, which we obviously had to make an adjustment for since this is on a slab. The second comparable up there had 1,824 square feet and is not on a basement. So that one's a very comparable property, about 100 square feet difference there. The third and fifth comp there, you can see those are both also on crawl spaces, 1,792 square feet and 1,766 square feet. And then the fourth comp, like I mentioned, was smaller. It's 864 square feet. Now, comp number 2 is, like I said, right around the corner. If you look at the screen up here where where Rapid Map is, this property right here is that comp number 2. So that has the same views, same location, everything. Comp number 1 is in South Canyon Country Estates, which is about 3 miles closer to town. The Cedarwood Court and Woodstock Court, those comparables are off of Highway 44, off of Hysiga and Gunderson Road.
I'm familiar with Rimrock Highway and
Sure.
Miller Flats, and if I was, I'm not suggesting a particular number. I'm just saying there should be a location adjustment for anything on Rimrock Highway, Hysiga,
And we do.
opposed to Miller Flats and South Canyon Estates is a totally different upper scale subdivision opposed to Miller Flats, which is an older, to me, average quality homes in there. But
Yeah, and that's one reason why I said the best comps that I had were 1 and 2. 2 is in this subdivision, in the Cavalry Trails subdivision, and that it's a very good comp with the size and the type of detached structure and everything there as well. It just does need an adjustment for time since it was an older sale. One thing I'd just like to mention, I can touch base, unless you'd want me to further clarify that question that you had, I can touch base on why it increased so much in 2017 if you'd
Yes.
like. So in 2016, we were doing a full reappraisal in the Nemo neighborhood, went door to door in 770 properties. And when I looked at this one, we did not have that the attached garage that was on this had been converted to living at some point. So sometime between the time we were there previously and that reappraisal, that had been converted to living. It had also had the remodel done completely on the inside and the exterior windows and roofing done as well. So it was information that we did not have that I picked up with that reappraisal. Now, that was the reason for the increase, specifically that large increase to the square footage because we thought that was a garage.
Thank you, Trevor.
Trevor, just a clarification. When you say roofing, are you talking about strictly shingles or are you talking about?
Strictly shingles. I'm not talking about the
Okay.
sheathing or anything underneath it, just the roof cover.
Okay.
Yep.
was there any estimate, there, looks like there was a lot of remodeling costs. Was there any estimates on what that cost was?
I don't have a specific estimate on that cost, but I mean, you have bathrooms, you have kitchen, you have flooring, you have trim, you have interior doors, the laundry room, everything. So it's a pretty sizable amount, which is one of the things that I did look at with the previous purchase price. I mean, it is an older sale because it was in 2011, but it sold for $182,000. And if you adjust that for time and then add in cost to remodel to that extent, I don't feel our number is unreasonable. One thing I'd like to note regarding their comparable properties that they mentioned with the square footage cost, a lot of the comparables that were used, well, it's really just the properties that sold right around them. So we have a mix between the 17,800 square foot homes on a crawl and a slab to 850 square foot homes on a basement. So there's a big difference in cost between a 1,700 square foot on one level with one level living and an 850 square foot with basement finish. There's a big cost difference there where an adjustment would be needed. You could use it as a comparable property, but there'd be a significant adjustment for that. So,
Well, if you have market evidence in the subject neighborhood, I would probably have to go along with your recommendation.
Is there a motion or more discussion?
Just
Madam
one-
Chair,
Oh,
Sorry.
looking at the comparables that are in the same neighborhood that are within 100 square feet, 13351 Gary Owen Drive, 10405 Cedarwood Court, 10500 Woodstock Court. They're looking at 136, 142, 144 square foot, and we're assessing at 154 a square foot. Are these other homes, Trevor, not as updated?
that would be correct, yeah. The ones on Cedarwood and Woodstock are newer homes, so they're in similar condition.
Okay.
But the other ones, especially the Gary Owen Drive, is basically original, but it's well maintained. It's got a newer roof cover on it, but other than that, it's original windows and siding and kitchen and baths. And
Okay. Then that makes sense. Okay. Thank you.
Longs, if you'd like to speak.
Just a couple of things. If we use the assessor's value, we come up about 129 per square foot. If we use what our son put together, it's about 111, and yet we're up at 154, which that just strikes us as a bit excessive. And then if you look at the change, I mean, from the time we bought it to now, we're saying that the house went up $80,000, 57%. Just seems, I just don't see that in the market.
And I would address that of 9 years of market appreciation and a complete interior remodel since it was purchased.
Didn't that include you didn't think the garage was a living space? And there's,
The increase does,
the
yeah.
increase does,
That
but I
was
mean,
in 2017 where that
yeah, but
increase was.
I think that's what they're trying to say is the 80,000 increase, but you added a living space. And then what were the two fixtures that you were talking about too?
Oh, yes, when I
plumbing
was,
fixtures.
when I was inspecting the interior of the home with this appeal, I found that we were short by 2 plumbing fixtures. When we're looking at bathrooms, we look to see how many plumbing fixtures are there in the bathroom. Is there 1 sink? Are there 2 sinks? Is there a separate tub and shower? Is there a laundry sink or a wet bar? We're looking at all of those, and that's how we capture the value for plumbing fixtures. And we were short by 1 sink in a bathroom and a laundry sink in this case. So when I looked at the interior and saw the quality of the updates in there and that extra plumbing fixture, we are actually low in my opinion. And if we changed that data, our value would be higher. But I'm not recommending that at this time.
Okay. Ma'am, did you have something to
Yeah,
say?
my comment is, when we bought the house in 2011, the garage was already there. The old garage was already converted to living space. I mean, we haven't done anything other than
Nothing structural.
cosmetic. And we're retired, and that's been our project, is to fix up our house. And now I feel like we're being punished for it, fixing up the inside of our house. We haven't done anything on the outside other than.
Basically vinyl
yeah.
flooring, paint, and doors,
Thank you.
cosmetic, no structural.
Motion or more discussion? Motion?
I'm just reviewing this information that Chris Long put together,
Okay.
which I hadn't had a chance to do, and the only thing I don't see is sale dates, and if this is fairly current market evidence, I don't know how you could ignore it.
The problem I had with the comps that were provided here, like I said, we do have one similar comp, that Gary Owen Drive. There's no adjustment for time on these sales, and some of them are 3 years old, which I consider to still be current market. However,
16.
there's been a change in the market over the last 3 years, and that time adjustment does need to be taken into account.
There's 2 at 16, 1 at 17, and 2 at 18, 2018.
No, that's a 16.
Sorry.
I would have to agree that in the past 3 years, there's been significant market change, and I think you would probably agree with
Yeah,
that as
absolutely.
well. I've seen it in my own home a lot, so, and I am not in as beautiful of an area as you are. But I understand your frustration, but I think that his assessment is fair, as far as the area that you guys live in.
I tend to agree with you, Mark. I mean, I do construction and I'm not saying that, I don't think they're trying to punish you. I think you guys enjoy what you're doing and it's an investment in your property and I think it's done well for you. Apparently, they like it really well. You must do really good work. You know, I guess that's the way I look at it, uh, I, I think Trevor went out of his way and worked hard on finding his assessments and so forth. And personally, I think it's a gratitude for the work that you do.
Madam Chair.
Sir?
So the house was, the property was last purchased for 182, when was that?
2011.
2011. And at that time, before the improvement to the garage and all the remodeling, you paid $106 a square foot. So if you paid $106 a square foot for that property in 2011, and then subsequent to that, you did all those improvements, and we go back to these comps that Chris put together, and that indicates 111. That 111 and that 106 just, they don't, something's not right there. So I would have to think that based on the remodeling and turning the utility of that garage into living quarters, that it would warrant something significantly higher than 111. And the good news is that your value is probably up there too. So I'll wait for some recommendations.
So I will uphold the recommendation of the Equalization Office. Would be my motion.
Second.
There's been a motion by Hadcock, second by Drews. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, folks. Ms. Helen Reed?
Yeah, that'd be the next one.
Okay. Dawn, how are you this morning?
Good morning, how are you?
Good. Your name for the record again? Sorry.
Dawn Puckett, appraiser with Pennington County Equalization.
I'll let you go first, Dawn.
All right. I am going to pull up the aerial real quick here.
Thank you, Ms. Dawn.
All right. I'm going to share this with you. This is what I'm sharing with the commissioners. I have a little handout for you.
Thank you, Ms. Dawn.
Thank you.
All right. This property is the Reed Cabin. It's parcel ID number 10659, and it's actually a Forest Service cabin on leased land. So there's no land tied to the valuation of this, it's just the cabin. This cabin is one of 8 that are situated around Pactola on the Forest Service lands. So I have pulled up the parcel, and it's a very large parcel. The cabin itself is located down the Pactola Basin Road, kind of here where I'm have the pointer. So you go down the east side of the dam, and there's a few cabins back down in there, and the subject is one of those. There are a little history of the Forest Service cabins for you. There's 85 of them in Pennington County right now that we assess. We did a reappraisal on the cabins in 2019, for the 2019 assessment. And before that, it had been 8 years, they had been reappraised in 2010. These cabins are for recreation purpose. The Forest Service puts a lot of limitations on ownership and usage of these cabins, and they can't be used for year-round residences. The appraiser, me, knows and understands the limitations placed on the ownership of these cabins by the Forest Service. These cabins, the use of them is further limited by physical location of the structure and the whims of Mother Nature. So if there's a lot of snow or a lot of mud, sometimes they don't get into them. But the value placed on these cabins is supported by the sales of the same cabins. So they're all in the same situation. Utility of the structure and its ability to serve the basic needs that you would want in a recreation property were considered with the valuation. Also considered was the conditions of the structures, how well they're protected and preserved, the level of maintenance performed over time. So all of these things were taken into account when setting the values for this year. Recreation properties such as these cabins on Forest Service land are subject to the same laws that govern an owner-occupied dwelling or a commercial property in Pennington County. We should be assessing them at market value. Market value is not necessarily reduced by limited use, family heritage, or the location on leased land. Market value of these properties is generated by demand. There are a limited number of these. Like I said, there's 85 in Pennington, there's some in Lawrence, there's some in Custer, but there's not a lot of them. It's further enhanced by the anticipation of using the property for family events and things like that. Also for consideration in the market is the structures themselves and how well they can satisfy the needs of the people who want to use them. So is there water available? Is there sewer available? Electricity, things like that. And these cabins have, I have cabins with no electricity, no water, and we have cabins with wells, sewer, septic system, everything. So they vary greatly from one end of the utility spectrum to the other. Even though the requirements of the Forest Service on these cabins can be a bit restrictive, those restrictions are also in place to protect the cabin owner's investment and to protect the lands around the cabin, which is why people want these cabins. They want to be out in the forest. So the current assessment on this cabin is $95,600. And it is 1,094 square feet. So that's a picture of the cabin there in front. The handout I gave you has a front and back photo. This cabin, the log portion, was originally constructed in 1925, and then a frame addition, the part to the right, was put on at some point in time, and I do not know when that was put on. Our current data indicates there's one bedroom and one bathroom in the structure. Site improvements that the cabin utilizes include a cistern, a sewer holding tank, propane, electricity, and a telephone line. The well and the pump house appear to be shared with two neighboring cabins. The cabin appears to be well-built and well cared for. It's stood up for a very long time. I did ask to see the interior of the cabin and was declined. And so if there are adjustments that need to be made to the data, I have not been able to figure that out. So that's where we're at with that. So the second page of the handout I gave you, I did have a chance to visit with Ken in the office, and I knew he had some concerns, and so I tried to illustrate those for you. So there's 3 tables on that second page. The first table is prior assessments of the subject property. When I reviewed the assessments since the last reappraisal, what I saw was that the assessment had gone up 3%, gone down 3%, and hadn't changed much through a period of time when these cabins were greatly appreciating in value. So between the last reappraisal and this one, we had gotten a little behind on the market. And there's a couple of reasons for that, and I'll talk about sales with you in just a moment. Table 2 is the 8 cabins in the Pacatola group. There's a group of cabins out Sheridan Lake Road, there's a group around Pacatola, there's a group up by Black Fox. And there's usually 6 or 8 or 10 cabins in these groups. So with these, I listed the size of all the cabins in the years built. But with this particular group of cabins, there's been 2 sales in the last, since 2000. So the one cabin sold for $50,000 in 2000, and the other cabin sold for $74,500 in 2009. There is actually a third cabin that is sold, but they have not shared their sale price with me, so I can't use it to make any analysis. The sale price per square foot on those is $69.44 and $82.78. Those are older sales. There's no time adjustment to those sales. The subject property is assessed at $87.39 a square foot. The third table is the sales that I have for these cabins on leased land. So they're all in the same situation, all on Forest Service land. And the last 5 sales occurred within the last 3 years. So 2016, 2017, 2018. I had 5 sales in the last 3 years, and prior to that, the last sale we had was 2010. So these don't sell very often, and when they do come up for sale, they sell very well. So I'm going to address those most recent sales that are highlighted in peach on that third table. And then those are also the 5 pictured on the front page, just so you can kind of see what the cabins look like as well. These highly comparable properties support the market value or the assessed value that I have on the subject currently. All 5 cabins are inferior to the subject cabin in size, quality, and location. The sales prices of these cabins range from $53,900 to $107,000. And if I break that down into a per square foot value, I'm at $78,000 to $78 to $119 per square foot. The sales to assessment ratios, which we look at on these cabins, range from 43% to 103%, with my median being at 52. So these cabins are still not up to market value. And once again, the assessed per square foot value of the cabin is $87.39. Of these 5 sales, I'd put the greatest weight on cabin 12948. And that cabin is up China Gulch Road, which is fairly close to Sheridan Lake. It has, of the sales, it's one of the larger ones, and it's in good quality, or it's in good condition. I've actually been inside of this cabin, and all of the amenities with this cabin are very similar to the subject cabin. If I used the sale price there at $119.42 per square foot for the subject cabin, I'd get a value of $130,645. So I would ask the board to uphold our current assessment of $95,600.
Read, please.
Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of my family. in appeal of our tax assessment being made on our personal property at 12834 Pactola Basin Road. As you can probably tell, I'm reading from a little bit of a script here, so.
And your name, sir?
My name is Ken Reed.
Thank
I'm
you,
the
sir.
I'm the son of Helen Reed. Helen is deceased,
Thank you, ma'am. Or
and
sir.
so I share the cabin with my two brothers.
Thank you, sir.
I'm almost certain that our complaint is the same complaint of the majority of the folks that have residential, recreational residences in the Black Hills. Our biggest issue is with what appears to be the inflated and excessive increases in our assessment approximately every 7 or 8 years. And Dawn has explained a little bit about that. In speaking with the individuals responsible for the appraisals, who were very professional and cordial, I may add, I found that the abrupt changes in assessed value are mostly related to the scheduling cycle of the on-site inspections. I also know that recent sales, property improvements, and condition of the recreational residence play a role. In light of that information, I'd like to explain our situation. The property in question is a cabin recreational residence huddled in close proximity to 5 other cabins below the dam at Pactola Lake. To start the conversation about assessments, there has only been one cabin sale in the area in the last 3 years. Now, she has better access to information than I do. So, and that sale value was undisclosed as far as my research could tell. In the same group of cabins, there has only been one significant building addition to a cabin in the last 60 years. That was the $17,000 addition to the Hill Cabin in 1998, which is recorded on the Pennington County property record card. That wraps up the discussion of sales and building additions. All of the cabins and lots must be maintained to a pretty high standard as dictated by the U.S. Forest Service. If the regulations are not followed, we are in danger of losing our leases. It seems ironic that if I owned the land under my recreational residence, my taxes could go down if I let the place turn into a veritable dumping ground for trash and old cars. All of that said, in the 10 years from 1989 to 1999, our assessment went up 129.9%. From 1999 to 2009, our assessment went up 29.13%. And from 2009 to 2019, our assessment jumped 259%, 259.4 to be exact. Overall, over the past 30 years, the assessed value of our recreational residence has increased from $8,960 to $95,600, or 966.96%. If I was renting an apartment over the past 10 years and my rent went from $800 a month to $2,075 a month, which is 259%, do you think I'd be upset? If a car in 2009 cost $20,000, do you think I could afford a $51,800 car?
Not really, no.
And that increase is 259%. Now we go to the present day. From 2018 to 2019, our assessment went up 30.6% in 1 year. The Hill Cabin next door went up 48.92%. The North Ice Cabin just down the road went up 25.4%. The other cabins in the basins went up 62.5%, 20.8%, and 12.15% respectively. I found similar results with cabins on leased ground in the Balsar Gulch off of Sheridan Lake Road, which is about 6 or 7 air miles from the Pactola Basin cabins. From 2018 to 2019, assessment values of minus 4.04%, 5.45%, 49.06%, 19.18%, 86.67%, 25%, 45.24%, and a minus 2.27%, and a plus 35.81 were found in those cabins in Balsar Gulch. So pretty much all over the board, the majority of them going up considerably. Contradictory to the mostly increases that I found in the cabin groupings above, I did find 2 cabins in the Custer Gulch, which by the way the crow flies, is probably within 2 or 3 miles of the Pactola Basin cabins, with assessed values which had dropped from 2018, or from 2018 to 2019, 22.30% and 18.51%, respectively. Another contradiction is that these two cabins appear to be more modern than the Pactola Basin cabins and have closer access to the lake. Shouldn't the question be posed, why shouldn't their value be higher?
This is where the change is.
All in all, if I were a statistician, I would be concerned about the variability of the above increases and decreases of a relatively stable population that had been sampled many times before. Lastly, much has been made about the desirability of the cabin properties in the Black Hills and the prices being paid, and I don't deny this. But remember, the cabins we are talking about are on leased ground. I acknowledge there is no property tax on the land on which the cabin stands, but I do think that decreasing the assessed value of the personal property because of the leasing issue would be prudent. Because it's on leased ground, I think it should actually work against the sale of the property. Buying any of these cabins which reside on leased ground carries some inherent risk. The Forest Service could deny renewal of a lease if they determined in their long-term planning that the area could be developed to a higher public use. In my opinion, all recreational residences built on leased Forest Service land, as authorized under the Organic Administration Act of 1897, are under attack. Part of this act was to ensure that citizens of average means would have access to recreational opportunities on the Forest Service lands. Subsequent to that legislation, the Cabin Users Fee Fairness Act of 2000, CUFFA, seeks to, and I quote, preserve the opportunity for individual and family-oriented recreation by Americans of ordinary, quote-unquote, ordinary means. In conclusion, while Pennington County has no control over the leasing policies and the fee increases of the Forest Service and vice versa, the combined actions of both are working against the intent of the recreational residence program and making these cabins a plaything of the wealthy. Thank you.
Ken,
Questions?
do you have a number in mind of where you think it should be?
You know, I really don't. I have not discussed that at length with my brothers. I think what we object to mostly is the process that has been going on. Every 7 or 8 years, boom, we got a huge increase. And I'm not sure if there's something organically that could be done about the process. Seeing an increase of 1 or 2% according to the Consumer Price Index or something like that, I can more understand something like that. I think we all can.
Okay.
So Don, can you explain the process a little bit? Because I know we reappraise every 6 to 7 years. Can you kind of explain to us again how the reappraisals are done?
Right. The properties, the neighborhoods are looked at every year, but part of the problem in the past, since the last reappraisal, is that we didn't have a lot of sales to look at. So, I mean, we are assessing at market value, and if you don't have sales, sometimes things don't change. On my paper, Table 2, I put the percent change, it's the second to the last column. That includes the Custer Gulch ones that he was talking about, plus all the Pactola Basin cabins. So through the reappraisal, I had property values change anywhere from negative 20%, so they went down, to 90%. So there was all kinds of increases across the board. The median change was somewhere around 20%, but there was significant differences in how much property values changed through the reappraisal. Part of what I was doing with the reappraisal was trying to make sure everybody was being treated consistently, the same way. I was using the same numbers and methodologies to calculate depreciation, to using the same guidelines for quality and condition of the structures. I was trying to treat everybody the same. And that's why there's such a variation in the percentage of increase and decrease across the board.
So can I ask you something, Don? In 2017, it was 73.4, and 2018 is 73.2, and then the next year it's 95.6. I mean, where did that fluctuation, or how did that fluctuation, am I missing something in there?
No, just with the reappraisal being done for the 2019 assessment. That's why there's that big jump there. So if you look back, the 2010 assessment was 25,500.
Yes, ma'am.
And when we did a reappraisal project that year, the 2011 assessment was 59.9, which is a 135% increase in that year. And then the values, basically, we didn't have a lot of sales. We didn't do any reappraisal work. The values just remained in the system. 2018, I come in and do a reappraisal again, and I'm looking at inconsistencies with the data and trying to make everything even across the boards, and then we see changes again. You know, I understand the taxpayers' concern with the big jump every 7 years. That is our reappraisal cycle. If they were to jump 10% every year, they'd be standing here saying, geez, they go up every year. It doesn't really matter which way we do it. There's going to be somebody who's unhappy with it.
So Don, just tell me, okay, so in 2015, this property went up 3%, 16 it went down 3%, 17 it went up 3%, 18 it stayed even, and then it jumped to 31%. Tell me what did you base going back 15, 16, 17, what did you base that on then?
Well, the current data, it would be based on the current costing data. And so quite possibly in 2016, it could have been an update to depreciation within our costing system. And so when I go out and do a reappraisal and I look at these cabins, condition is something I'm looking at and making updates to. But if we weren't out there looking at it, it was probably the same amount of depreciation just a year later. That's
Your quality, explain to me how that works. What's the
quality.
is average the highest that we're looking at here, or is good higher than average?
No, we have a hierarchy of low, fair, average, good, very good, and excellent.
Okay, so good is higher than average.
Good would be higher than average. Now, that's quality. Condition-wise,
I see
poor,
that.
fair,
Okay.
average, good.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner DeSanto.
Unfortunately, or fortunately for people who are selling their places, the Black Hills number of properties such as this with small acreage and a livable cabin, they're far and few between. I know because I've been looking for them. And in a lot of cases, you're winding up with a cabin. I looked at one a couple of weeks ago, 125,000 out by Custer, that you had to haul in your own water. The bottom line is we're basing our assessments on sale value. And what's happened in the Black Hills over the past 10 years seems insane. However, I watched my duplex in Milpitas, California in 1989 sold for $178,000. I sold it to my brother in 2006. He sold it for $771,000. So it's just a matter of supply and demand. And people are coming to South Dakota and they're looking for places like this, and they're willing to spend sometimes ridiculous amounts of money.
And again, remember, this is only seasonal use. We use this approximately 6 months of the year at probably the most. We just got into it last week and the water was frozen.
Yeah.
And so normally we turn it on about this time of year, but we had a tough winter.
I
We
understand.
have to shut it in October. And as for, if a forest fire came through here, the Forest Service, my understanding of the regulation is that if a wildfire comes through, they're not responsible, and this place burns to the ground.
Right.
The road coming down the hill, maintenance on that has been not good. I paid close to $3,000 on my truck because I slid off the crown of the road going up here this winter, hit the guardrail. My brother Don, who was just here, and this is an issue dealing with the county, probably road maintenance, he hit a chuck hole and threw him into the guardrail, and he damaged his truck too. So we understand there's lots of pros and cons, and I appreciate Dawn and all the work she did, and I made her jump through a lot more hoops too. I mean, after we talked, again, she was very cordial, very good. Gary, you asked what the value of this cabin would be. It is invaluable.
Madam Chair.
Understand that.
See, and my brothers would say, and my wife would say, don't say that. You understand, this has been in the family for 102 years.
Right.
Madam Chair.
This is what she has there. Commissioner DeSantis, or Roskinick.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
First of all, Don, excellent job.
Thank
I
you.
mean, this is a beautiful presentation. The only thing I might suggest in the future is go out and see what is currently listed similar to that in MLS. I doubt that you'll find anything because these just don't come up in the market that often. As Mark said, could the assessor's office be a little more current? I think there's room for improvement there. About 3 months ago, I appraised an 800 square foot seasonal cabin 3 miles from your property. I've been in this I've been in that group before. That Pactola area is a lot more desirable than some of these comparable sales, and the curb appeal to your property is much higher than these 5 comparable sales, and most of those I'm familiar with. The point is that my market, property that I appraised, it had a 3-acre lot underneath of it, and I can't tell you what the value was, but I can tell you that this cabin and on lease you had a lot of concerns, but those concerns are already addressed in the comparable sales because all these other cabins are inherent with the same issues.
People are taking a chance, yes.
I would say that that 8739, based on my experience with the properties the sales that I examined a few months ago, is well within reason. Could the process be better? Probably.
96.8, I think, is the number that you're looking at right now. So
A 7-year period of time in real estate is huge. And so, like Ron said, we understand your frustration with these huge jumps, but a 7-year period of time of reassessment is huge, especially when we're experiencing the kind of growth that we're having here in South Dakota. And if you think that the change is dramatic now, I hate to say it, but wait till we have 10,000 more people in town because of our new contract with the B-21. So it's unfortunate. It's priced most normal people, such as myself, right out of the market, where our dream of having a cabin in the Black Hills decreases every year. So you're very lucky that you managed to establish this when you did 102 years ago. But I feel that her assessment is fair after going out and shopping around and looking for the last almost 2 years. I believe that her assessment is fair.
there's no doubt the influx of Californians and Oregons and Washingtonians has
I wasn't going to say
this
that.
market and made you realtors probably a few extra dollars, so. But, yeah,
So this is what I'm seeing. So they have sold cabins here. If you look at it, 14303, she had it assessed at 25.8 and it sold for 60,000. She had it assessed at 53.9, if I'm correct, on 13077, and nope, she had it assessed at 55.6. It sold for 53.9.
Yep.
Then on 10894, she had it assessed, Miss Dawn, I should say, not she, 34,000. It sold for 70,000. So,
the evidence is
See what I'm saying? So,
somewhat overwhelming.
well, the evidence is the facts and the truth because it sold for that. So a lot of these, if you look at 12948, she has it valued at 70,900. It sold for 107. She had, Miss Dawn had 16057 at 31.4, and it sold for 60. So all these places are doubling, and I think she's, to me, I think she's doing it fairly. You might not sell it, but,
And we have seen markets go the other direction. I know in 2014, when Helen passed away,
yes.
we tried to sell her home at 1123 Franklin, and the assessed value was $317,000. And I was lucky, probably fortunate to get 217. So it sat on the market for a while. We changed realtors, and a very nice property. But weak markets bring weak prices, strong markets bring strong prices.
Yes, sir. I think these are pretty good where she
Madam Chair.
has them valued, sir, so. Commissioner Drews.
I'd make a motion that we accept the equalization office value on this.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Mark second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Thank you.
Nice place.
Thank you, Don.
Coming in, you bet. Come
Sorry to
visit,
take up all
come
your
visit
time.
anytime. Do you want?
That's really nice.
Okay.
Shannon, next, please.
Okay, so that was the two we brought off of those lists that,
Yes, sir.
that wanted to appear. So now we get back to our regular schedule. George O'Rafferty, that is a property owner that mailed in an appeal. Rod had looked at property information and mailed back something. Our recommendation is to leave the assessment the way it is. We think the value is fine, and we've had no other contact with that property owner.
Okay, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by
Second.
DeSanto, second by Roskinet. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Then the next on the list is Peter Kopel, and he is here.
Okay,
Or she is.
so Trevor? Trevor, your name first, again, sorry.
All right, my name is Trevor Abernathy with Pennington County Equalization.
And your name, ma'am?
I'm Patty Copel.
Patty Coble. Thank you, Miss Patty. Trevor, first, please.
All right. Okay, the property we're discussing here is owned by Peter and Patty Copel, and the tax ID on it is 9171. I have it pulled up here on Rapid Map so you can see that there. The assessed value for this property is currently $86,100 on the land and $310,100 on the structures, for a total of $396,200. I will be recommending no change to this assessed value. The property is located in Spring Canyon Estates, which is located off of Sheridan Lake Road and accessed off of Bighorn Road. So if you go here, this is Clarkson Road that comes right off of Sheridan Lake, and then Pioneer and Bighorn come off of that. The land is 6.2 acres, and the residence is a two-story home built in 1993. It has 1,712 square feet above grade and a fully finished 984 square foot basement, for a total of 2,696 finished square feet. It has 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, a 2-car attached garage of 528 square feet, and we have this home in average condition, which is defined as having some evidence of deferred maintenance and normal wear for the age. A few minor repairs and refinishing are needed, but overall it's a well-maintained home. And then if you could also show the photos of the detached garage there, Ann. The property also has 2 detached garages. One was built in 2004. That'll be the first one coming up here. It is a 4-stall garage, and that is 30 by 40, or 1,200 square feet. As you can see in the photo, it's not a cheaply built garage. It has a good pitch on it, nice overhangs. It's well built with matching siding to the home. It also has a second detached garage built in 1994. That one is 16 by 22 or 352 square feet. We completed a reappraisal in this neighborhood in 2017 where we went door to door to verify the data. Our assessment last year based on this new information was originally $387,700. This was appealed last year and the board did change the value to $366,100. This year we are recommending the $396,200. And that increase is about a 2.19% increase over what we recommended last year. I did inspect this property on the 27th of March, remeasured the house, both detached garages, discovered that we were actually short by about 28 square feet of living due to a bump out that was in the attached garage. That's a very minimal value change, but it was a correction. Let's see, all 5 of the comps that we have, if you want to go to those, Ann, they support the value that we have on the subject property. However, there are 3 that I would like to focus on most. The best comparable that we have here is comp number 1. That one is at 23,585 Wilderness Circle. It sold in September of 2018. And if you want to scroll up for the square footage on those, Ann, thank you. It was built the same year as the subject property. It's a 2-story home with an attached garage, very similar design. It's about 460 square feet smaller than the subject property at 1,488 square feet above grade with a 748 square foot basement. It does have a detached garage that is 384 square feet, but also remember the subject property also has that 1,200 square foot garage in addition to that other smaller detached. This one has about 3.48 less acres involved with it, this comparable. So it's sitting at 2.72 acres, and it sold for $377,200. And with adjustments, it would indicate a value of $421,000 for the subject. In addition to being a highly comparable property, this property sold previously in March of 2015 for $349,000, showing a $28,500 market appreciation in 3.5 years. Comp number 3 is on Silver Fox Spur. It's another good comparable for the property. It was built within 1 year of the subject property, and the interior does have some updating, and the home has 328 more square feet above grade, but it is a ranch-style home. The additional square footage is in the basement on this one since it's a ranch style. It has a similar attached garage and no detached garage. It sold for $445,000 in 2018. Comp number 4 is just around the corner from the subject property on 8304 Pioneer Circle. It sold in August of 2016 for $560,000. This house is older and a little nicer quality, but is very similar in style, condition, and location. It has 2,731 total square feet, so it's really close. We're within like 40 square feet of the subject property overall, and it does have an attached garage and 676 square foot detached garage, and then a small barn. The sale does have more acreage, but after the adjustments, it indicates a value of $479,600 for the subject. And then the last sale there that we have is still a good comparable property, but it does require a locational adjustment since it is located off of Old Hill City Road. But it's similar square footage, similar year build, similar style as it is 2-story as well. It has an attached garage like the subject property and then a large detached shop building as well. That one sold for $349,000, but indicates a value of $420,000 when adjusted for location and differences in the property. So after reviewing the subject property in depth, the comparable sales, and seeing no other evidence that supports lower value, I'm recommending no change to the assessment. Again, that's $86,100 on the land, $310,100 on the house, and the 2 detached garages for a total of $396,200.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto?
can I ask Trevor a question before she speaks, or?
Sure.
How do you come up with the assessed value on property? just the property, not the buildings or anything else?
So
Where
just
do you
the
come up with that?
bare land?
Right.
We use sales of bare land to apply to the value of the land. So if there are sales of land, we will use those and try to find similar acreages and what they are selling for to apply that to the subject property.
And have you found any sales of raw land in that particular area that?
I do have some, yes. When looking at the bare land sales, sometimes you don't get the exact acreage. So there are occurrences where you have to take sales of improved properties and subtract the value out from that sale of the improved properties. It's called abstraction to find an indicated land value for the sale. But I do have some here. I've got four, and I can pull them up on here if you'd like, but they're 3 to 4 acres. They sold anywhere from 74,900 to 124,000 for a 3 to 4 acre piece. There are some 7-acre sales, but they do require a little bit of an adjustment on them. They sold for 104,000 and 119,000. The reason I say a little bit of adjustment is they are on Moon Meadows Road. So if you're familiar with Moon Meadows, it's similar location as far as
Right.
area, but it does have some views associated with it. Now, these around the Spring Canyon area do have some views as well.
Right.
It's just a little bit different, but those sold for 104,000 and 119,000 for 7
Well,
acres.
frankly, the reason I'm asking is because and what your numbers are giving me adds up to exactly what I was assessing, is that property values in that area, raw land, it's about 22,000 an acre
Yeah, it's
is what they're selling for. And so we've actually, in this particular case, underassessed the
it's
actual
possible.
land itself by about 50 grand or 60 grand, somewhere in there. So that's just, I'm seeing that, and I just wanted to figure out how you were coming up with your land.
Yeah, and when we're working with land sales and using abstraction as well, if we're lacking on an actual acreage that's sold, we do try to be conservative with that land value because we need, if you're using abstraction, sometimes that can have some play in the market with
Sure.
what the improvements are. So
Right.
we just need to be careful
Or
not
the
to
lay of the
not to
land.
be too high, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Roskina?
Madam Chair. So obviously the appeal is related to the to the level of assessed value, correct? They're arguing that the 396.2 is too high?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. Is it more just the combination of the land and the improvements, or is it just the improvements or just the land? I don't see anything on this sheet here that would indicate where the problem is.
There have been no improvements.
Well, with the home. When I say improvements, I'm talking the improvements on the lot.
Trevor, has there been any
Been no
remodel
change.
or anything like that done?
This is a well-maintained home, but I don't have any evidence of significant remodels. But it was built in 1993, so it's not that old of a home. But no, but it has been well-maintained. I mean, it's.
Well, when you fill out an appeal, normally it could just pertain to what the assessor has, the value of the land, or it could pertain to what they think the building value is. And I just wondered, I don't see anything on here that would tell me. With that being said, if I just look at your comps, they look good to me. And the average sale price, even taking the one inferior one over there, that sold for $155, the average on that, I'm just, with the information I have, comes out to $330 a square foot. And the subject, if you look at the subject, it's well under the 330, so just based on the information I have, I'm comfortable with these numbers here.
Okay.
Unless
Cope?
we have more market evidence that we could review.
So Ms. Copel, would you like to speak?
Yes, I'm disagreeing with the assessment, and basically because of last year, we were granted about $20,000 deduction, and now it's just added back on with another 10,000. There have been no improvements, there has been no change. It just seems like it's it's just not a fair price to me at all.
I think a lot of these numbers, it's just the market drives that. And so when the county assessor, when they put their opinion, I think they're just basing it on market evidence. It's not an opinion. These sales are factual, they're recorded, they've been verified.
Right.
And that's all they have to work off. And if I was doing that appraisal, I would use that market evidence. And if I had another set of market evidence that could support something lower, I'd certainly look at that. But as I said, you're currently being assessed at $231 a square foot. If I took the average of these 5 comparable sales, that's $315. So just based on that information, I don't see any major issues. But I'm open
The
to more.
comparable sales to me I'm not a realtor, so I don't understand it. I mean, a lot of it seems to me it's an opinion, and they make the adjustments as they need to kind of make it fit to the home they're trying to compare it to. So to me, that's subjective, but they have a better education to be this subjective. So, but it is still hard for me to understand that. But we also, I mean, we live off a gravel road. The neighbors on the road maintain it. It's not maintained by the county, which has been a lot of people say, oh, I'd never live off a gravel road. I mean, that's a deterrent just from that alone. And again, because we have made no improvements.
Well, if you're going to sell your home and the buyer was going to get financing, you'd have to have an appraisal. And basically, this is a county appraisal, but if you hired an independent appraiser, they're going to go out there and they're going to use the best set of data that they can find, which is what Trevor has done. And he's just trying to say this is based on the comparable sales or the market evidence. This is what I think the value should be, and just what little bit I know, that might even be on the low side, but that's just an opinion.
Yeah.
But that's not subjective, or that's actual factual data that has been verified.
Thank you. Board, any other discussion?
I would
Do a
move for
motion?
approval of the assessor's value.
Motion to approve the assessed value. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved by DeSanto, second by Drews. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Copel.
Mr. Grant's next.
Okay. Mr. Grant and Miss Melissa. Melissa, would you like to go first, Miss Melissa?
If you would like me to.
Thank you.
Sure. Melissa Lehman, appraiser with the Equalization Office. The subject property is located in Rapid Valley. It's at 3235 Bonita Lane, and I'm recommending no change to the 2019 assessment of $180,000. It's $32,200 on the land and $147,800 on the building. This home is 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. It was built in 1999. It's 1,332 square feet on a crawl space. In 2016, the owner started building an addition to the home, which included 224 square foot living addition, which is a laundry room and a bathroom, and a 672 square foot attached garage. The property was valued at a percentage of completion for 2017 and 18 assessment year while the owner worked on the addition, and then valued at fully complete for this year. So there are 5 comparable sales up on the screen there. The first one was built in 1987, so it's 12 years older. It also has no basement like the subject. It's about 100 square feet larger, has a detached garage rather than an attached garage, and it sold for $178,000 in August of 2018, giving it an adjusted sale price of $190,300. Let's see, sale number 2 was built in 2005. It also has no basement like the subject. It's 300 square feet smaller, so it only has 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, and that sold for $160,000 in September of 18, giving it an adjusted sale price of $179,800. Number 3 was built in 1998, has no basement just like the subject. It's a little bit bigger, has a much smaller attached garage, and sold for $170,000 back in August of 2016, and so that one has an adjusted sale price of $190,700. Number 4, built in 2001, also has no basement like the subject, sold for $171,000 in May of 2017, giving it an adjusted sale price of $181,200. And then number 5, that one was also built in 2001, no basement, just like the subject. It's a little bit bigger, but it also sold for $187,000 in January of 2016, giving it an adjusted sale price of $189,700. So based on those comparable sales, again, I would recommend no change to the 2019 assessment of $180,000.
Thank you, Ms. Melissa. Your name, sir?
My name is Jason Grant.
Thank you, Jason. And your name, sir?
I'm Paul Grant.
Thank you.
I'm here to appeal my property value. My father had a chance to run the numbers, so he'll be presenting it on my behalf.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
Jason works 3 jobs and I'm retired, so I have time.
You had more time to
Yes, I
review.
I did.
Thank you, Mr. Paul.
I'm going to start by handing out a piece of paper that summarizes what we'll be talking about.
Thank you, Paul.
I do appreciate the opportunity to present this information.
Thank you.
The front of the sheet is a summary of the last 3 assessments. And what I looked at was the structure only. The lot price didn't change. And in most cases, when I've looked at things, the lot price doesn't change. So I looked at the structure, as you can see, went up 21,000 in 2017, 16,000 in 18, and 23,000 this year. That's a 68% increase over 3 years. About 30,000 of that is due to the addition that we put on. When we did, so there's about 30,000 difference there is what we're looking at as an overvaluation is what we're looking at. We were told when we were appealing this that 95% of our addition was included in the 2018 assessment. So 5% of the 30 or 40,000, which is maybe $2,000, affected the 2019. So there's a $20,000 difference there in this year, and that's our main question is where is that coming from? We did get the comparables that are presented here. We also got 2 other sets prior to that of comparables, so we're just not sure if there was a hard time coming up with numbers that would support that 180 or what the deal was there. So what we did is we looked at it on a little bit different basis than maybe a standard appraiser might. What we did was on the equalization website, it says that an appeal can be brought forward if the owner feels that the property is assessed and unequal in relation to similar properties. And so it can be either greater of market, it's a greater market value, or it's unequal, it's in similar properties. So what we're looking at is similar properties in this area, and we are making our case against that. What I did was I looked at, I don't know if you can all see this map, it's a little, but this is the area. The red circle is Jason's house. The outline in yellow is the properties that I looked at, which were within his neighborhood, some right across the street. These pink marks are the comparable sales that were used in the analysis. So you can see that there's only one of those properties that are included in the area that I looked at. So there was probably close to 100 properties that I looked at. Out of that, I found 13 properties that had similar square feet, plus or minus 20% in square feet, and had at least a garage, some kind of a garage on it. Of those 13, 3 of them had sales within the last 3 years.
but their assessed value was significantly less than the sales price. So that tells me that those properties were not adjusted if they were based on a market price, that they are still held at a lower assessed value. If you look on the back of the page that I gave you, there is a busy worksheet. And what that worksheet, what I was trying to do, you see the Jason's property of 3235 Bonito listed there on the left first. I show the 2 years assessment values. I show the finished square feet, like on his, it's 1,232 square feet. I show the garage square feet of 672 and the year built. If you look at the next property, the 3152 O'Brien, which was one of those that was selected by the assessor to do a comparable on, that assessment for 2019 is 170,000. It sold for 178,000 in 2018. Based upon the square footage of 100 more square feet, a garage that was bigger. On the far right 3 columns, what I have done is tried to equalize that amount. In other words, I said, since this property has 100 more square feet, that value, in order to compare to Jason, should be dropped by $14,000. The same thing with the garage. The garage is bigger than Jason's, that value should be dropped. So I come up with a new number that 3152 O'Brien, if in order to be comparable to Jason at their assessed value, it should be 155,000 should be Jason's number. I did that with all 13 of these properties and averaged them out and came up with $151,000. That's part of the support, and then also the first 3 O'Brien properties, O'Brien 3152, 3161, and 3162, are essentially the same house as Jason. They have a little bit different square feet. I did an average of those, and that average was 156,000. So it says that this valuation of 180 is much too high. And Commissioner Roskinick, I know you asked about the square feet. Jason's, the assessed value on his structure is $120 a square foot. For the 3152 O'Brien, it's $103 a square foot. For 3161 Bryan, it's $94 a square foot, and 3162 is $87 a square foot. Overall, that average is $95 a square foot versus Jason's $120 a square foot. That's a $37,000 difference in assessed value. And I know this is not an exact way to appraise things. I'm not saying that we can establish values based upon this. It's just a common sense check on whether the values of houses similar to his will support his value, and I just don't see that that's there. I think this valuation really should be between 151,000 there and 156,000 on the 3 O'Brien houses. So that's what we're looking for, is a decrease in that valuation.
Thank you. Discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Ross.
Sir, this set of data here,
Yep.
if you had to pull 2 of those cells that you didn't feel were comparable to the subject property, which 2 would you pull?
I didn't really look at those sales.
Well, this is an opportunity for us. These are the cells that we're basing your assessed value on. So, or another way I could put this, Melissa, what cell would you say is most similar to the property that we're talking about today, of the 5?
The one that, either number 1 or number 5, I know number 1 is a little bit older than the subject, but it's very similar in size. It has, even though it's a detached garage, it's still very similar there, and it just sold back in August. Number 5 is slightly older, But again, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, very similar to the year built.
If I was choosing one, I would choose that number one also. Because
Okay,
that's the
so-
one that I have my data on. And that data suggests that it should be, but my house then should be 155,000 assessed value.
Yeah, 5 sold for roughly 125 a square foot, or 5 sold for 125 a square foot, and 1 sold for 132 a square foot. The subject, if I got this right, is currently assessed at 146 a square foot. If I take the average of the 5, I get 137 a square foot. Just based on what I've seen so far,
What's the price come out to, Ron?
That's what I'm coming up with, 137 a square foot average.
right.
So
But
what would the price be at 137 a square foot?
137 would be, I think if I did this right, would be, trying to figure out what that reduction would be. It's currently assessed at 180. So, yeah, it's currently assessed at 146. And the two sales that we felt were most comparable one was 132 a square foot and one was 125 a square foot. The average of the 5 is 137 a square foot. Leaving-
168,000.
I would just like to ask then, I printed this out from the Equalization website, which was put out by the county, saying that if an owner thinks that a property is assessed greater than market value or unequal in relation to similar properties, an appeal should be filed. And the appeal is regarding the accuracy or equality of the assessment. Well, by my numbers, it is not equal at all with the 13 properties that are in his neighborhood, some virtually right across the street from him. This is not, as I stated earlier, I'm not going after the market values that are presented on these comparables. I'm going after the quality compared to other assessments. If you look at these 13 properties, the highest sale there is the highest assessed value is $158,000. So if it's similar to Jason's, and it only sold, and it's valued at 158, that would indicate that his should be valued at 158. Equality is what I'm proposing here, rather than simply focused on market value.
I can address that if you'd like.
All those can be market value. If you want to adjust all these to market value, then Jason would accept whatever that was, but these are not market value.
So can I ask something? Number 1 was sold for 185.7,
It sold for 178,000.
and what was it assessed at? Can you tell me that?
170.
What was our assessment? Can we look that up?
170 is the current assessment.
Of
170.
that property?
Yep.
Yeah.
167 was last year's.
And it sold for,
178.
178. And so, yes, we are a little low to that sale, but we're actually really close. It's not too far off. And if we're low to those sales, then I would say that we're likely low to their assessment too. If we're low to all the sales, then our values are probably low in general.
and we're 85% of market value, right?
Is that
where
what
we're at?
170,000 is, or we should be at?
I don't know what that is, but I didn't think the 168 was far off from what we were talking about today, guys.
The
That's what I'm
the
saying.
question is the 180,000, 100% of full and true value? And
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And so when he's discussing some of the homes within his immediate area, there is one in there that I did use as a comparable because it sold, but most of those homes are completely different styles, split levels, bi-levels, homes on basements, and they are gonna sell different because they are different. The 3 that he was discussing that are on O'Brien Street, built in 1979, built in 1978, built in 1987. So they're much older than the subject, and the subject has a brand-new addition and a brand-new attached garage. just built. And so that is going to bring more value on the market.
Can you show the picture of the house?
Please.
So I'll make the motion at 168,000. That was based on the average that Ron had came up with, plus still adding the addition variables onto this property. And the comparable that sold for, not supposed to speak, sorry, after I make a motion.
Motion is 168.
Yay, yes, sir.
Madam Chair,
Hold on just a sec. Is there a second or is it died lack of second? Okay. Another motion or discussion?
discussion. The reason that I would disagree with that particular motion is primarily because of the age of the house. It's compared to the other houses when they were built that are comparable, it's much newer. And so other than the one here on 3245 San Bernardino, which sold in 2016 for 160,000. That's, going on 3 years ago, depending on what month it sold in. So I think the 168 is somewhat low, just because in the other comparables, it's 10 to 10, 11, 12 years older or newer than those other comparables.
Okay, do we have a number? Or do we have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner
I would
Roskinek?
recommend 172.
172 would be the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Motion by Roskinek, second by LaCroy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Motion carries with 4 ayes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next to be John Weiss.
That's right.
Weiss. And that'd be Trevor. Trevor, go ahead.
All right. Let me get it pulled up here real quickly. All right. Again, my name is Trevor Abernathy with Pennington County Equalization. The property we're going to be discussing here is owned by John Weiss, and the tax ID is 46188. I have it pulled up here on Rapid Map, and we've got some photos there, up there. So the assessed value for this property is $102,700 on the land, $404,200 on the improvements, for a total of $506,900. I'm recommending no change to this assessment. This property is located in the Wild Irishman subdivision on Geary Boulevard, and this is located off of Norris Peak Road, which runs between Nemo Road and West Highway 44. The land is 7.27 acres, and the residence is a 2-story home built in 1993 with 2,761 square feet above grade and a 1,500 square foot basement with 1,211 finished square feet in the basement. This totals 3,972 finished square feet of living. It has 3 bedrooms, 3 full bathrooms, a 2-car, 624 square foot attached garage with interior finish. And the home is in very good condition with a new roof cover, siding, and decks in 2014. And then if you want to show the picture of the outbuilding there too, and it also has an outbuilding built in 94 that is 30 by 30. However, the value is minimal in relation to the property value as a whole. You can see go for second one up. Oh, that one right there. So that's the 30 by 30 structure. That's the outbuilding there. So as noted on your sheet that I gave you, this property has been appealed numerous times. The last time a complete inspection was allowed on the property was March 18th of 2010. I performed an exterior inspection on this property for a full neighborhood reappraisal back in 2014. And we do know that the cement fiber siding, the concrete tile roofing, and the exterior decks were replaced in around that August timeframe of 2014. Although the owner has indicated disagreement with our measurements, any inspection, interior or exterior, since August of 2014 has been refused. As I'm unable to additionally verify my data, I have to assume that it is accurate at this point. The assessed value is a good representation of market value based on the comparable properties that I do have. If you want to pull those up, Ann.
4% increase per year.
So all five of these comparables indicate that our value is accurate. However, the most weight is put on sales number 3 and 5. Sale 3 is catty corner across the street from the subject property, and so the location is extremely similar. The land size is within 1 acre of the subject property, and it was built within 1 year of the subject property. The style and construction is the same. The comparable property has 600 square feet less above grade than the subject property. However, it has 2 detached garages, which the subject does not have. So we have to adjust that it's a little bit smaller, but has some additional outbuildings. This sold in September of 2017 for $565,000. When adjusting for the differences, it indicates a value for the subject property of $515,200. Comp number 5 is the second best comparable. This is on Shields Road, which is right off of Highway 44. It's kind of close to Johnson Siding, on the way to Johnson Siding there. This house is very similar in square footage, within 100 square feet of the subject property. It has the same style of construction. It's a 2-story, the same quality for the construction, and a similar build year. It's just a little bit newer. This property has less land. It's only on an acre instead of 7.27. And this sold for $489,900 in 2016. When we adjust for time and the land size, it indicates a value for the subject of $510,800. Like I said, those are the best 2 comparables that I have. The others do support it, but there are some more adjustments made to those. I know the owner had brought up some information regarding a sale right next door as well. This property, it is 13160 Geary Boulevard. And Ann, if you wouldn't mind pulling that up on Orion, it's 55360 is the tax ID. This property is right next door. It's also a 2-story home. It is a little bit smaller. It's about 700 square feet smaller on the main level, and has a little bit smaller basement as well. Instead of an attached garage, it has a detached garage, but it's very similar location, similar land size. It's a 6.54 acres. This sold just in February for $439,150. So the total square foot above grade is 2,048 square feet, and the basement is 1,152 square feet in that home. When we adjust for the differences on this property with the differences in square footage, it comes to an adjusted sale price of $509,850. And just keep in mind that this sale is after the assessment date, so it was not used to value the property, but it is an indication that our value is accurate. So at this point, based on the review of all the evidence in the market and all the sales, and assuming our information as far as everything data related is correct on the home, I'm recommending no change to the assessment of $102,700 on the land, $404,200 on the improvements, for a total of $506,900.
Thank you, Trevor. Your name, sir?
John Weiss.
Weiss. Go ahead, Mr. Weiss. Thank you, sir.
Okay, well, I did appeal this because I seem to be getting hammered year after year with really large increases in assessment. In 2015, the assessed value was about $400,000. It then went up 7%, almost $30,000. 2016 and 2017, it went up about 8% to over $460,000. At which point, yes, there have been multiple appeals because although I'm more than happy to pay my fair share of the property taxes, I really feel bad about getting singled out for these increases that are 3 or 4 times that of what I see as an average in Pennington County. So in 2017, Trevor kind of threw me a bone and said, well, you can relax a little now because we've got you where we want you with this assessment. And indeed, last year, it only went up 2 or 3%. And I didn't come in and appeal it because that seems reasonable to me. But now, once again, we're up a 7 or 8% increase, and there have been no substantial improvements in the property in any way, shape, or form since 2014. Those improvements were made because the exterior was demolished in 2013 in a huge hailstorm, followed by the Atlas storm. And the roof was shattered, and I replaced the concrete tile roof with another concrete tile roof, and I replaced the exterior with a similar exterior siding. So, you know, these were things that I simply had to do to the property. So now, since 2015, the assessed value's gone up something like $107,000 for no real reason whatsoever. Trevor was apparently unaware that the house next door had sold. It was a recent sale. When I made him aware of it, he contacted me and said, yes, you're right, but it doesn't make any difference in our appraisal. That house next door I consider to be the best comparable. It's similar land, it's a similar type of house, similar construction. Both this property and the one that's kitty corner, a couple of houses down from me, were on the market for 2 years. Okay, these houses were originally priced significantly higher. The one at 13,163 was originally priced at about 650. Sat on the market for a year, didn't sell, then was relisted at about 620, and it finally sold for 565. Okay, so nowhere near the asking price. This is a premium property. I've got the real estate listing here. Over 100 feet of wraparound deck, 2 aerated ponds. It has beautiful grounds, spacious family room layout with wet bar, massive master suite featuring private deck with hot tub, tiled bath with granite countertops, dual vanity, whirlpool tub, kitchen boasts top-of-the-line cabinets, stainless steel appliances, more granite countertops, and inviting breakfast bar. I've still got the original Formica countertops in my kitchen. I don't even have corian, much less granite there. And this house was, I think, I don't know what the price per square footage that you have, but on this, it's listed something like $190 per square foot. It has 2 outbuildings. One of them is a heated shop with bathroom. The other is a large detached RV garage in addition to the attached garage. I think this is a premium property that is worth significantly more than mine. The house next door is much more similar, but I'll point out that both of those houses have their own private wells, which mine doesn't have. Both of them have large asphalted driveways and parking areas. Mine is quite minimal. The one next door just had a new driveway put in at a cost of about $45,000. It has 6 bedrooms and 3.5 baths, which is significantly more than mine. My house has large square footage. That's largely due to a spacious family room downstairs on the lower level, which doesn't actually even get used all that much. So I think both of those houses were actually built they're a little bit younger than mine. Mine's a little bit older. My grounds are not in particularly wonderful shape. And I think that disregarding that sale next door is just really not fair. That house, by the way, also sat on the market for 2 years. It was originally listed 2017-18 for $475,000, and they didn't even get a nibble. And they relisted it for $450,000, and it finally sold for $439,000. And it took somebody coming in from out of town to purchase that house. These houses don't sell easily, and I think part of the problem is they're overpriced in today's market, you know. So I'm not asking for special treatment. What I'm asking you for is just to treat me like everybody else here. If I see increases in assessed value of 2 or 3% like the rest of the county, I'm not gonna come in here and waste everybody's time with it, but I'm getting hammered year after year with these 7 or 8% price increases for no specific reason other than cherry picking these premium properties that sell for a whole lot more than mine ever will.
What
So-
do you feel is, if we were to take your assessment and the increase annually, what would you say, in your opinion, is a fair increase annually? We all know that property values are going up. So what would you say, in your opinion, is a fair increase annually on your property?
If I haven't made any improvements, then if there is just an average price increase in the county, you know, I'm not going to be happy about the value going up, but I won't come in here and argue it. It's when I get not just once, but year after year.
But
these seven
that's
or
what
eight-
that's what I'm asking you, Mr. Weiss, is
Your 2 to 3% increases are fine.
2 to 3%?
I'm fine with something like that.
Okay, do you realize that since, with the list of appraises that we've had since 2010 to current, it's 4.46%. If you take it's an average of 4.46% over the past 9 years, I believe is what I added up. That's what your increases have been, 4.46%. So not a whole lot, I mean, a couple percent, yeah, away from what you think is the average. But the truth is, real estate prices have gone up more than that in the past 10 years. Just in the past 4, they've exponentially increased in value. So 4.46%, if you take the average over the past 9 years, is what your assessment has increased each year.
And
Madam
Mr.
Chair.
Seems,
Hold on just a sec.
ahead.
Mr. Weiss, I think the main issue is he's guesstimating from your property, because you haven't, since I've been here, you haven't let him look in your property. You haven't let him look in your house, and then you're saying, treat everybody fairly, make sure it's done right, and then, in order for Trevor to get the fair and accurate value, he needs to look at your property, not just the outside. So in these cases, he's doing a guesstimate. So you might be similar, you might not be similar. At this point, how's he supposed to know? He's guesstimating from what he knows and what you've told him, and not what he has seen this far. So, to be fair to Trevor, and our office and how we do our values, I think, Commissioner DeSanto is right, on the average. And, Trevor has done due diligence since I've been here, trying to figure out your property, from a guesstimate, sir. So,
Well, if I can
Yes, sir.
respond to that.
Yes, sir.
I purchased the house in 2009 and immediately was hit with an assessment that was something like $50,000 over the price that I paid. And at that point, I did invite the assessors to come in, and they did come in, and they did measurements, and they did a complete, appraisal of the house inside and out. And I have a report from that time that they wrote, and there have been no substantial changes since that time. So Deb, I have to say, there's really nothing more to be gained.
well,
by
John,
that.
if there's no change or nothing to be gained, then it would seem pretty simple for him to go and see that there's no change, and maybe that would help with your assessment as well. So, I mean, to be fair, let's turn that the other way. If there's no change or no difference, then, there'd be no difference from him coming in to see that. John, so, okay,
Just seems to me it's a waste of everybody's time.
that's his job, John, so, thank you.
Madam
I
Chair.
would just reiterate that. I know it's your right not to allow them in, but I would highly encourage you to let them come in.
I've done it. I have done that.
But
It's been in the
9
last-
years ago
Yeah,
was the last time they were allowed in, so.
there's no increase or decrease in square footage, in finished square footage, because it's essentially completely finished. There's nothing more to be gained there.
Thank you, John.
What?
Commissioner Roskinek?
Madam Chair, John, you said you felt that one of the best indicators, they couldn't use this sale, but the one next door, you felt was pretty comparable to yours, a little bit superior. What did that sell for per square foot? Trevor,
I'd have to do the math, but
I've got 214.
It's 3,200 square foot property. So about 150.
are you talking above grade square footage?
The one next door, I think you gave us the square footage and you gave us the sale price.
I have
The
30,
214.
214,
You're looking
that's what I have.
up there, yeah.
And if I take 214 and I knock 20% off of that, I come up with 183. If I take the best sale that I think you both agreed sale 5 was similar, that sold for 183. Your assessment is 183. A square foot. I just like square foot.
okay.
So those all dial right in there at 183, so I don't know if I see a cause for an appeal here.
You can make a motion. Do we have a motion or discussion? More discussion?
I move to approve the assessor's value of 506,900.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Commissioner DeSanto first, second is Drews. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Grant.
Well, thank you folks for
Or
your time
Mr.
and
Weiss,
attention. I
sorry.
appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Next is Miss Lori and Susan McClosson. Is this phone call?
Yeah,
Okay.
expecting Joan is gonna make a phone call?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
How am I supposed to do that? Susan, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Thank you, Miss Susan. We're gonna have the assessor talk first, Miss Susan, and then we'll have you talk. So
Okay.
Miss Lori's first.
It's a little soft. I don't know if you can make it a little bit louder.
Joan, can we make us a little bit louder?
Make sure you're talking to them.
Break it out.
So, Ms.
Speak it, Mike, a little bit closer.
Okay.
Okay.
So Miss Susan, Lori's gonna speak first, our assessor, and then we'll have you speak after that, if that's okay?
Sure.
Thank you, ma'am. Miss Lori?
you.
And
Did you
speak
want me
into
to
the,
wait-
speak
Did you want
into
me to
the
wait
mic,
for
Lori.
Mr. Knapp?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. All right. Hello, my name is Lori Joy. I'm an appraiser in the Equalization Office. Thank you. We're here in regards to property ID 14245 located at 22510 Black Fox Camp Road. The building value is $91,300. There is no land value because this is a cabin on leased Forest Service land. Excuse me. The cabin is located approximately 6 miles west of Rochford, the Rochford area. The cabin was built in 1949, and it was originally 779 square feet. It is now 955 square feet. It has 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and it has all the utilities you need to live in it year-round. Excuse me. In the fall of 2018, we did do a neighborhood reappraisal of all 85 cabins on Forest Service land. And of those cabins, all the value, about 90% of the values did increase for those cabins. On this particular cabin, in 2008, they did add a 176 square foot addition to the home, 128 square foot enclosed porch, and in 2011, they added a 55 square foot wood deck. In 2008, they also renovated and remodeled the cabin. I want to point out that all cabins on Black Fox Camp Road assessed values did increase. One at 3.38%. The rest range anywhere from 16.5% to 63%. Sue stated to me that on the phone that her biggest concern is the 40% increase in 1 year to the value with no improvements made to the property since 2008.
We all know increases to property values are not, based solely on a physical change. Prior to 2017, between 2010 and 2017, we just didn't have any sales of these cabins on file to refer to and get any kind of idea what the market was doing. In 2017, we had 3 sales, and in 2018, we had 2 more sales. So so we did correct our datas. We went out during reappraisal, we made adjustments to conditions of the structures, made notes of depreciation and that sort of thing. So to be at market value, we had to calculate all those numbers. We looked at the sales, and that is the reason for her 40% increase to her value without any improvements made since 2008. So I recommend no change to our assessed value of $91,300.
Thank you, Ms. Lori. Ms. Susan,
Yeah.
go ahead and speak, honey, and tell us what you're thinking on this assessment, ma'am.
All right, thank you. I just want to thank you for allowing me to voice my concern on the tax increase, and especially for allowing me to be heard by phone since I live in Iowa. If I sneeze or cough, I apologize in advance. Everything is blooming here, and I'm dealing with allergies. I think I did get the names from Joan, who I'm speaking to. There's Ms. Hadcock as the chair, and the commissioners are Mr. Drews, Mr.
Roskinick.
Roskinick,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. DeSanto, and Mr. McCoy.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Since we're talking about the value of the cabin, and I'm going to be reading, to keep to the point, I'm going to be reading most everything I say. But since we're talking about the value of the cabin, I'm going to give you a little sense and a brief history. My grandfather was raised by several aunts after his mother and his 2-year-old sister died in a cabin fire in Tyndall, South Dakota in 1899. And the families of these aunts would bring my grandfather to Black Box Campground and Cave Draw to camp, and they were there all summer. It's been told to me that actually one of the aunts named Black Box because she thought she had one. I don't know if that's true. Cleaver Draw, though, is named, which is adjacent to Cave Draw. It was named after one of my relatives that was raising my grandfather. So in 1949, my grandfather was 54 years old. He built the cabin and started leasing the land from the Forest Service. And that's right in the area where he had spent his summers in the late 1800s and early 1900s. After his death, my uncle took over the cabin, and after later then, in 2005, I took over the cabin. So the value of the cabin to me and my family is much different than anyone else. But the points I want to make is the improvements that Lori talked about did happen in 2008, and increases were reflected with those updates. From 2008 to 2009, my taxes rose 63.8%, and from 2008 to 2011, my taxes went up a whopping 127.3%. So I understand that they did see the cabin in 2010 and again in 2018, but no improvements have been done since 2008, only routine maintenance. And this maintenance, excuse me, is kind of connected to the Forest Service. Every year they have a standardized checklist that we're given about things we need to do or not do. And being on the Forest Service is not always a favorable situation for many people like it once was. You need permission to do just about anything. Sometimes it can take years to get a reply on a yes or no on that, and that's just how it is. The road is closed to the cabin from December 15th to May 15th, and it can be longer due to weather, road conditions. depending on what happens up there. And so the cabin is inaccessible for at least 5 years, or I'm sorry, 5 months out of the year. Now, that is not true on the comparables. I think there's only one that has a closed road, and that was the least expensive one, the one on Sunday Gulch. So I'd like that, to be noted. And I've been told there's a shortage of homes in the Rapid City area. The market's tight, and that would have no bearing on part-time residents out there. And even though I have utilities, as Lori said, that I could go year-round, the Forest Service will not allow that. We're limited on that. That would be impossible, even if the road were open, but the road is closed, so I couldn't do that. Let's see, what else here? Anyway, and then I got the notice of taxes going up another 40.25% with no improvements, only routine maintenance that is under the supervision of the Forest Service, like all Forest Service cabins are. And I just feel that this another increase after, it was a 63.8% after I did the improvement, but then it's gone up, another 31% another year, and now 40.25. And to have this come, and you just have no basis for this at all. So that's where I'm at. I to get the notice and have I just don't see the reasoning behind it. So market value is, I don't know, from year to year, would it go down with a different, I wait another 8 years and maybe market would go down, but I'd be paying these higher prices during those 8 years. So anyway, I just feel that this increase is unfair. And
Sue, I just want to let you know, I was on the property last Friday, so the road is open at this time.
Oh, they opened it, because usually it's May.
Yep, I was there, and that was April 20th.
Oh, April 20th.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, so there wasn't anything that had been moved to go out there?
No, there was not.
Okay, well, that's very unusual. I've never known it to be open early. That's just what I've been told by the Forest Service, what they do.
Well, and I would like to point out that all the comparables are also seasonal and limited use according to the Forest Service, whether the road is open or not.
Okay, Lori, let her finish, and then we'll
Oh, I'm
have you
sorry,
speak.
she said she was done.
You're okay, I apologize. So are you done, Miss Susan?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear you say you were done, and Miss Lori did, so I apologize to Miss Lori. All right.
There is one other thing I just want to make note, or kind of ask, actually, on a comparable. The log porch road one, which is the most expensive as far as what it was sold for, that one's only 10 minutes from Rapid, which is not anything like where my cabin is. And the Rochford one is right in town, Rochford, so there's full access there. China Gulch, that's full access, so it's just that number 4, what's that, Highway 87 one, and that's the least expensive. And that was the only one, I think, that had closed access during the winter. And I don't know for sure the information I got online, but the log porch cabin, if their taxes, my information is in 2018 they only paid $641 in taxes, and I paid $1,059.90 in taxes. So I don't know if that's the correct. I'd like to know if that is correct or not. But according to my information, that's what I have. So as far as the comparables being comparable, I was curious about that.
Thank you, Miss
Now I'm
Susan.
finished. thank you.
I have one question. So, Miss Lori, if these, I'm sorry, these were Don's
Yes,
paper,
sure.
but they're kind of similar to yours.
Right.
So I have the one in Rochford.
Yes.
The Rochford would be 1430.
03?
Yes, ma'am. So the square footage is 640. It's low
Yeah,
in quality, fair
Yes.
condition, and you're built 1905.
right.
It's sold for $60,000. But the value, did we put the value on the 25.8? Did you see the 2019 value? Is that the assessment that we assessed it at?
Let's see here, that's count two.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, that is correct.
So we're actually assessing them low, but they're selling high, like
Yes.
3 times as much. And same with the ones below it on 16057, 12948, and their square footage is selling 9375 is the lowest one, and that's only because it's, I believe the quality is low. Did you, Miss Susan, are you understanding what I'm saying here? So a lot of the cabins that they're assessing them lower than they're selling for by about, in 2 cases, 3 times as much.
Yeah, it's 900 some square feet.
And you added, where's the paper? You added in 2008, 176 square feet addition, and then 128 square feet enclosed porch,
55 square foot.
and a wood deck of 55 square feet. So,
Well, the wood deck, I'm not, it's basically like a little sidewalk on the side. It's only, I don't know, maybe 10 foot long, 5 foot or so.
yes, and that adds value to it, ma'am,
Okay.
when you do that, Miss Susan.
The deck.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay.
All right, thank you, Miss Susan.
That's true.
Question
Commissioners?
for Lori.
Yes.
Lori, when you do the assessment on these, do you give consideration to the fact that they may not be usable 12 months out of the year? Is that a factor that's taken into consideration or not?
Well, all the 85 cabins on lease Forest Service land, the Forest Service does not allow them to use it. It's a limit, they're all seasonal limited use, whether they can access them or not.
Okay.
The Forest Service limits their ability to use them.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners? Ross Connect?
Does Susan have a copy of the for sales that we're looking at?
Yes, she does. I did email those to her.
Susan, can you hear me?
If you could speak up just a little bit.
Okay, can you hear me now?
You asked if I received something.
Okay, I'm looking at for sales that the county has put together. And
Yes, she emailed those to me yesterday. Is that the one, Lori?
Yes, that is correct, Sue.
Okay, yeah. I
of
received
the
it yesterday.
for sales, the one that sold for the lowest on a per square foot basis was $100 a square foot, and it's rated as fair. Yours is rated as fair plus. And if I look at the proposed assessed value, your proposed assessed value is $95.60 a square foot, or roughly $4 less than that. And just based on this information, it would be hard to suggest, I would have to go along with the county assessor just based on the market evidence.
If that's your decision, that's your decision. I don't know. Are they all high? I don't know.
Yeah.
There's just different considerations with every cabin up there.
Yep, they're all pretty high, Miss Susan.
Susan, Mark DeSanto, I'm all of these values per square foot that we have for comparables are right in line, and actually, 2 of them are higher by quite a lot. One of them's 119.42 per square foot that it sold for in 2017. But if you look at everything that's sold within the past 2 years, your 95.60 per square foot is right in line with these other assessed values. And your cabin is actually in better condition than two of them, it looks like to me, three of them, as far as the quality of your cabin is concerned. So I think that this assessment is a fair value, and it, again, as I explained to the gentleman that we talked to before about his National Forest Service cabin, these cabins are highly sought after. And I know most of these people, most of you that own these aren't thinking about selling them, but if you were thinking about selling them, I think that you would appreciate the high assessed value, because you would have buyers that could qualify for loans to purchase these properties because your property would assess at those values. Whereas if they assessed lower, then that's going to reduce the number of people that are going to be able to purchase that cabin because it would become a cash sale situation. So
Yeah, if the Forest Service continues to lease to all of us.
that's
You know,
correct.
since you don't own the land, you know, you need their permission to do just about everything.
I understand
And
that.
sometimes it can take years to get an answer either way. So it's very different than having your own property and knowing there is a future in that. You don't know. You just don't know how will be managed where your cabin is.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner,
Susan, the four sales that we're looking at, they all share similar characteristics as yours. They're all on leased land. They're comparing apples to apples.
Yes, and three of them you can access anytime you want during the year, and just that Sunday Gulch one has the same conditions I have that I'm aware of.
And I think, you know, when you see the increase in assessed values, that's a direct relationship to the increase in property values.
Property value, you're actually speaking of the cabin.
Correct.
Because we don't own the land.
okay, so do we have a motion?
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I would make a motion that we accept the assessment as provided by the Equalization
We have
Office.
a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by DeSanto, first by Drews. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Miss Susan.
Mr. Chair,
Okay, thank you for your time. I do appreciate it.
before we go to the next week, can we take a 5-minute break?
I'll second that.
5 minutes? Okay. Been a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
And I'll be
I don't think so.
visiting
We
with
just
you
recessed.
about the properties owned by Leo Ham that he's appealing.
Which number are we starting with, Joe?
He had mentioned, and it works for me, parcel 47612.
47612.
This is but before I go into that, I wanted to mention that in 2018, we did do a reappraisal of all improved agricultural properties in the county. The last time that it had been done was in 2003. They started on the west end of the county, and they finished in 2008. And so this summer, we took 5 teams to get out there and do all the properties. And so that's, I just want to give you that information. As far as parcel 47612, this is 156 acres. It is valued at $23,700 or $151.92 per acre. My recommendation is that there is no change. The subject property, oh, why didn't it go there? There we go. Is located right along Sheridan Lake Road. It's fairly flat. There's some hills in it, and there's some trees on the east side. Pretty nice property. This property does have crop rated soil on it. Could you go to the assessment tab? I'm talking to
Ann?
Ann. And then to the, or not the assessment tab, the appraisal tab, my bad. And then the agricultural land values. And so this property has 19.81 acres of crop-rated soil, and then the rest of it is non-crop or pasture-rated soils. That document I gave you this morning does talk about how we can make adjustments to agriculturally valued land. Agricultural land is valued based on production. The school in Brookings is legislated by the law to come up with the top dollar of what non-crop land is and crop land. So they give us those numbers. And then the Department of Revenue gives us direct and specific information on how we can make adjustments to those properties. So this 19.81 acres of cropland, if you would click on that, is valued at a top dollar of $1,277. So you take 1,277 times the acreage, and then you take that times 0.4315, and then that gives you what the value of your land is. In addition to that, we have given this crop-rated soil an additional 77% reduction because of some of the issues with the cropland on it. And there's, according to the law, according to the legislature and the Department of Revenue, there's no other way for me to lower that value. One of the things that maybe will probably be mentioned is that there isn't water on it. Can we go back to the map? Well, the map's over there. But I believe you may have this. Oh, here you go, Leo.
So is that road, that's Sheridan Lake, right? That's the main arterial?
Lake Road.
Yes, sir.
Yep. And that's Victoria Lake Road, just a little bit to the north there.
Joe, what do you have that cropland valued at now?
So, but I'm going to mention this and then I'll answer your question.
Let him finish, Leo, and then you can.
I believe you have a piece of paper that has a map similar to this. And what this depicts, the yellow dots are wells all around this property. So this property may not have water on it, but there is water that it could have. As far as the value of the land. The crop rated soil we have at $8,400 for the crop rated soil.
You have it at how much?
$8,400.
Gee, God. 8,000, how much?
408. So I'm recommending no change to the value of this land. It's done how the law says.
Absolutely ludicrous.
Leo, go ahead.
Well, Joe hit on the key thing here in that it does not have water. And he's pointed out these wells. I'm not aware of, the only well that it really makes sense to me is the one that he hasn't got shown here, which is, if you look at the square up there, and you start at the northwest corner, and you come down there about, 200 yards, there's the old well, original well that was on this property.
Right there about?
Yeah, and it's, was it, well, yeah, be closer to, up to the corner the other way, Joe. Up there, right, well, not that far, right there, let's call it there. That well was one of the first ones drilled in that area, and it was drilled by the Reeder family. And it didn't produce enough water to support livestock on a regular basis at all. And the well that's to the, in that resident, you got a pointer that you can point on that, Joe? Go right straight north to that Paskey house, right? No,
So-
not to the right a little bit, right, go right in there, that house. That house barely has enough water for its use, and there's 2 people living there. And then you go on up to those other wells up there that were drilled by the Moyle family, and I don't know for sure what they have for water, but I think it's just barely enough for themselves. And if you go to, let's see, the well over here that's on the east side of that property, I assume that was original, Vickers had tried to drill a well in there, and he didn't get enough water to shake a stick out either. There isn't, the well that's the most successful, as I know it, is in that housing project, and that was drilled by my cousins years ago, and they deepened it, and I'm amazed that they got enough water for that development. And as I look at our property, one of the reasons that I was able to buy that property in a way that I could afford it is that I needed property because my brothers owned 2/3 of what we had off of Sheridan Lake Road, and I had them leased, but I could see that they were going to develop, and they did. They sold it for development, and you've got red rocks and whole kinds of stuff on the old original ranch. So I had to, if I was going to stay in business in the agriculture world, I had to find some ground around the proximity that I could use. Mrs. Reeder sold that to me because there wasn't any water on it. And when I purchased it, I said, give me a chance. I give her, I don't remember what it was, $400 or $500. And I said, that buys me a month to study this thing. I went and got a well witcher, and I brought him up there, and we had kind of a lot of fun with it. But he said there's a little moisture in this draw. And I could tell that because there were some willows growing there. So I went and got the neighbor lad with his backhoe, and we dug a hole.
So Leo,
Well,
can you tell us how much do you think this property's worth?
well, if it don't have water, and that's the big problem, and the water that I developed
Okay,
in there only works about 2/3 of the time.
okay, so tell me what you're thinking for your
Well,
appraisal.
in that regard, and I don't see it having any potential for development whatsoever at this time. And the only way that that would ever happen is if the city brought water out there.
Okay, so what I'm asking you is what do you think it should be appraised at instead of
Well, in
23.7?
relationship to what I can make off of it, I tell you, probably about $150 an acre. Now, you think that's ridiculous, but I can tell you it's not. In relationship to what the ability for agriculture to produce, it's not ridiculous, because
Okay.
it's only, with the water that I developed there, it's only a summer program. We can put, when I was running my cattle, the Red Angus cattle, I could put 20 pairs in there maybe for 3 months, and that
Okay.
was it.
Okay, Leo, let these guys speak now. Board, do you have discussion? Okay, Commissioner DeSanto.
Joe, I've walked this property, and I would like to know what it would be assessed at if you assessed it with no water, no accessible water. How would that
Market
change the
value, or are
value?
you talking about agricultural value?
Agricultural value. How would it change that assessment?
It would not change it,
Wouldn't change it.
no,
Nope, that's what I
Because-
was talking about.
What do you mean it wouldn't change?
because.
Leo, let him speak.
Because the value of the land is legislated. I have to take their top dollar, apply the acreage, and then apply the factor based on all the conditions that are with that soil. They consider, I didn't bring my table 1A down, but each soil type has a description of what that soil type is like, whether it has slope, whether it's erodible, stony, whether, what the highest and best use is. All those things are considered when they come up and present and provide me with that top dollar.
They do not take into consideration whether or not there's water available.
No.
There's
they
no
don't.
factor in there that allows for the
And
fact
that's
that there's no
ridiculous.
water available.
Hold on.
Because they're looking at the production.
But if you don't have water, you can't have production unless you haul it in.
And we have to haul it a
But,
third of the
but
time.
if you, whether you have water on this parcel or not is a management decision. And
Joe, come on.
the legislature has said that this is how we value this land. And the value that we have on it is $151.92. And Mr. Ham has said that he thinks it shouldn't be any more than 150. So we're already at his value.
151.90 an acre?
I thought it was
Yeah.
8,400 on the cropland.
But just
Hold
for
on,
that,
Frank.
for the total, but that's 19 acres.
But if you look at the map up there, you can see, now, he said there's timber on the east edge. I'd say that is almost a third of the dang property is in that heavy timber, and there isn't any grazing there whatsoever. And I'm too dang old, I'm in my mid-80s, and I'm too dang old to go in there and cut it out.
So I'm going to make a motion to leave it as is. 23.7. It's been like that last year as well, so I think that's fair. Sir,
Last year's assessment,
yes, sir.
23.7?
Yes. And this year's.
Last year, we didn't even graze it for half of the season.
Theo, hold on. Is there a second?
Second for discussion.
Okay, we have a second. Theo, go ahead, sir.
Well, last year's an example. I wouldn't let them in there because there wasn't any water, or they didn't want to come in without any water. So it sat there until we got rain, and then I was after them. But by then, the leasee had scheduled his grazing where he was going to put cattle, and he didn't have cattle to put in there when I wanted them to come in. So, but he did finally put a few in there.
Okay.
But it wasn't enough to shake a stick at for long enough, and it basically wasn't grazed.
Okay, so is there any other discussion by the board?
There was no income off of it.
Mr.
Speak of.
Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Zasano.
I guess, Leo, my question would be, is when you get into livestock and agriculture, everybody knows it's the riskiest business on the planet. As far as I think everybody knows that. And we have to have some sort of parameter as how to value property, land, ag land, whatever. And if every year we base our assessment on weather or, changes in the weather, I guess would be the most reoccurring thing that happens, we'd never have a solid level way of assessing value on property. I understand, as I just pointed out, that it makes it very difficult to run cattle or produce crops if you have no water. That makes a big difference. But some years you have plenty of water and plenty of grass up there, and some years you don't. That's kind of goes hand in hand with ranching, from what I understand. And
If you look at your map again up there, where he has that arrow, that's in the proximity of where this, as I understood Joe, you couldn't tell it. If you went up there, you couldn't tell the difference from that $8,400 an acre land than you would the 150 acre land. Because if there's anything it grows in there profusely is buckbrush. But it's heavily timbered, as you can see, to some degree, and it's a draw.
I understand
It's
that.
a dang draw that he talked about the parameters that an assessor should be able to take into consideration, such as as a drainage situation or erosion possibilities and those types of things. There is none of that in their appraised value. And I've argued with Joe for years that they ought, as assessors, they'd ought to have that. Heck, you don't need an assessor crew now if you can just go ahead and do whatever the Department of Revenue
Okay,
tells you.
okay.
Oh,
Commissioner
I'm not
DeSanto,
done.
do you have a follow-up?
I do have a follow-up. But I
Okay.
want to help, I want to try and explain something. Leo, I think you're missing, we're not assessing $8,400 an acre on any of that property.
Well, then I
That's,
misunderstood
that's a
Joe. I
total,
thought
that's
that,
a total, that's a
I know,
total
but
valuation of the combined 19 acres. It's am I correct? It's $151 an acre
Yeah, there's a
times
total,
19.
a total of
Yes.
156 acres. Of that, there's different soil types.
Right.
19 are crop rated, and the 19 are valued at $8,400.
And he's
Per
got you at
acre or
23.7,
for the
Leo.
total?
Total.
It's
To-
$8,400 for the total 19 acres, not,
I ask you what a per acre, Joe. What is a per acre then? on
Okay,
that
guys,
cropland?
bottom line is, this is 23.7 is what it's appraised at.
The
Okay, that was-
23.7 per acre?
no.
No, that
For
was
the
the
whole
total
thing.
amount, Leo.
36.
Okay, guys, are we, you getting that 23.7 for all the acreage, the 156 acres, right?
I'm
Guys,
concerned about the 19, and I haven't been
okay,
told yet what that appraised value per acre is.
436.
$436.
yep,
Well, that's consistent with the handout that I give you folks. And the reason that I give that, this piece right here is on another piece of property that I'm appealing today, which is part of the original ranch. It's basically the majority of Section 28.
okay, we're on this one, so we do have a
Okay,
motion.
but in the bottom of that corner, you'll see on this map where it says $443. That's what it was, as according to Joe told me
Yep,
in
we have that, Leo.
2017.
We have that, okay,
So
so.
he didn't raise
Leo,
that.
Leo, we have a motion. Do you have any other discussion, board?
No.
Anybody have any other discussion? If not, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Sir, next one.
Yes.
The next parcel is 58546.
Thank you. Joe, go ahead.
I'm just bringing it up on the rapid map here.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
question for Leo. Leo, do you understand that we kept the assessed value as the same as it was last year? On that last one you just,
I thought he raised it.
no.
No,
Oh,
we kept it the
So
same.
it's the same value as it was last year?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner DeSanto, do you have anything else?
No, I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
I tried to, but it's okay.
What's the number on this?
Joe, next parcel, please.
As I said, this is parcel 58546. This parcel is 113 acres. The total value of the land is $150 per acre, which is $17,000. This parcel has a barn with a lean-to right where the cursor is. That structure is valued at $10,100. So again, for this parcel, I'm recommending no change. Again, the land value is $150 per acre. The structure value is the barn, and the barn is 30 by 60. The lean-to is 10 by 59. The barn value per square foot is $498. The lean-to on the side is $1.85 per square foot. So with agricultural properties, you can't just pop to the comparable sales tab to look at that, because the agricultural value of the land is not consistent with market value. So the buildings and structures are valued based on cost. Replacement cost new, less the depreciation. So I decided to look and see how much is a barn, a Morton building like this. And I gave you a piece of paper that has the values according to Morton's website on it. And a building of similar size is 41,000, and our replacement cost new on this building is 42,000. So we're right in there. Less that depreciation, the total value for the barn is 8,900. The lean-to is 1,096 for a total of $10,100.
That's right.
So I'm recommending no change and that we leave the value at $27,100 per the assessment this year.
Go ahead, Leo.
All right, this property is the one that is in this picture that you have there.
Yep.
And there again, there's a chunk down here in the corner that it now has valued at $446, is that right, for the cropland?
That could be correct.
And you can see the valuations on the rest of it. Now, I have taken exception with these soil things for years. This chunk here is the most ridiculous. It's even worse than it was up on the school section in relationship to having any crop potential or value. Now, the soils are what soils they are. I don't know where them guys got that kind of a soil sample out of any of this. There's 3 drainages that come into this little deal, and I mean they're major drainages. So this isn't necessarily in the bottom of those either. It's inclusive of, and if you go to the picture on the second page, which is this one.
Okay.
Look at this one.
Got it.
You'll see there the little white speck in there, that's that barn that's sitting there. Now that barn has very little use to me at this point since I don't have my cattle anymore. I keep it primarily for the, if in event things go to pieces economically, I may have to get some cattle myself again, and I may have to go back to cow-calf program. Until that time, the only function that barn has is my kids and I store our toys in there in the wintertime. And it's empty basically the rest of the year round. So at any rate, the lean-to is totally separate from the barn.
Here we go.
It is not attached to the barn. It's a daggone structure that I built myself. And if you're going to tax me at that rate, Joe, on it, I'm going to tear the dang thing down and take it elsewhere. And I've already started to look at the possibility of moving that barn and selling it to somebody because it don't have that much use for us now to pay that kind of a value on it, I don't believe. And as far as the cropland designation on that is really silly. Now, Ross, you were kind enough to take a look at it with me, and he realizes very well. I've asked some of the others to come out and take a look, but none of you have except Ross, and there's just no logic to ever even considering this stuff as cropland. There's no possibility for ever cropping any of it, and if you was to look at it, you couldn't tell the difference to where them lines go and to what the production is at all.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek.
I did go out there last week and we looked at the lean-to and we looked at the soil conditions. Immediately after that, I went back and me and Joe sat down. I said, Joe, how do we handle this? And then Joe gave me a soil map, and there's 8 classes of soil. And according to Joe, I don't know how these soil maps are put together, but they can't deviate the soil type. The soil type is taken off the map, but what they can do to adjust for the soil, they can't change the type, but they can change the rating. And Joe went down as low as he possibly could, following state statutes, to arrive at the number that they.
I'm not aware that that's state
Hold on,
statute.
Mr. Ham, let him finish.
So it's not, we don't get to make that decision. We have to, and people have been driving this down my throat. We gotta follow state statutes. But there was consideration to the soil type. We can't change the type, but we can change the quality, I guess.
So my motion would be no change, or leave it at the 27-1 as the assessor has assessed this year. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Drews. Discussion, Mr. Ham, do you have discussion, sir?
Well, I think it's obviously you people feel that you're just as much a victim as we are. As I served as a commissioner at this point, I think one of the most desirable parts of being a commissioner is this function of attempt at equalization. The state has made it pretty much their business as to how it's going to be run. I have spent half of my life trying to get productivity consideration for agriculture, which would be based entirely on income. And I have always felt that any fair tax has to have an ability to pay it.
Thank you,
And
Mr.
without
Ham.
income, there isn't any ability to pay it, and that's the trouble with agriculture right now. And you lost 2,000 operators this last year in the state of South Dakota. Now, you ought to be darn concerned about that.
Thank you,
And
sir.
that's a legitimate loss to society.
Madam
Thank you,
Chair.
sir. We do have a motion, Mr. DeSanto.
One
Did you
other
have a
question.
discussion?
Leo, I got a question for you on this. This is the property that you had me inspect last year that has the drainage coming from Dunsmore Road. It's east
Yes.
of Dunsmore.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that,
Yeah.
Mark.
Okay, so
No,
Yeah,
it's-
it's
that's where
created,
that piece is.
I understand, but that drains all the way into this next section that we're talking about.
It follows the highway down and comes underneath the highway down there in that first little bend.
Right.
But that high-class ground, Mark, is right there in that, you can see that draw coming in from the west, and you can see the one coming in from the northwest.
Right.
Well, that one too, because that goes up to that tree. You see that tree right there above your marker, Joe?
Yeah.
And that is a steep daggone draw.
Oh, yeah.
And it's red soil showing there.
Okay,
There's
Mark,
no
do you have,
cropland
do you
there.
have a follow-up?
Well, my follow-up is just that I guess, frankly, I'm in agreement with Leo that our hands are tied. We valued the ag value at the lowest that we can value at because
I don't
that soil
buy that.
or
No,
the
hold on.
soil
Hold on.
quality.
Let the commissioner speak.
And that's where we're locked up. So Leo, and I think you and I talked about this at one point in time. My recommendation, and you said, I know you've been working at it for years, but get together with some other ranchers and get to the legislature and.
They were supposed to pass it last year.
Okay,
And,
guys.
the guy they had out there from SDSU, the stock growers had him out, the guy that the legislature's put in charge of this new deal.
Yeah.
And I talked to him, and he sent me a map of my place. There is nothing, it just looks like it's level ground.
Okay, guys, let's stay on this property.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I'll tell you
We
what,
do
I think-
have, Leo, we do have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion by the commissioners? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Well, there isn't a heck of a lot of sense of going to the next one. You
Well-
people are locked into some kind of a unreasonable situation here, then
Leo, stop for a second. Let us move forward. We're just doing our job, sir.
The
Joe,
next
please.
parcel is 48699. This is the parcel of land that has Leo's home on it. This land does not have any crop rated soil. It's all non-crop rated. When Leo and I talked, he wanted me to come out and do a site visit. So I did do that. And based on the site visit, I do have some recommendations. Just for your information, this land is 48.91 acres, which, based on the value of $3,300, is $67.50 per acre. The assessed value came out at $201,000, which is $143 per acre. Per square foot. After the site visit, the home is dated. There's paneling finish in the basement. And so I was able to make a couple of adjustments. And when I completed those, the assessed value that I am recommending is $171,700, which is $122.99 per square foot.
That'd be my motion.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Discussion?
Is my turn?
Yep, he lowered you from 201 to 171.7.
Well, if you go and look at your sheet that I gave you here on the valuations that we've had in the
Yep,
past,
he just
goes
gave you
clear
a heck
back
of
to
a deal.
96. Now, if you look up there at the top, I've written some notes up there. Last year, it was valued at $109,400. Now it's gone up $64,300 at 173.7. And so if you look at the history on this thing, it's bound to bounce around like a dang yo-yo, and doesn't make a whole lot of sense at all. But I tell you, to have that, that's still almost a 60% increase in the valuation. And Joe, it isn't totally his fault, but since Joe was out, I took the opportunity to re-examine the old house. The house was built in 1958, so there's nothing he can compare it with in the area. I was the first one out there, and that was in 1958. So there's no house around that's comparable. And he went through I had a list, but I didn't think of everything. Since then, and of course, here again, we're in a situation where we are responsible for our own water, our own sewer, and our own road. And if you look at the comparables that maybe Joe did in evaluating the house, you've got Red Rocks is all in the city, and Wildwood's all in the city, and those are my neighbors. And so, in relationship, Joe, I had forgotten to tell you that the chimney is in disrepair. The cap on it is bad. Now, you cannot see the chimney in that picture, but that's a pretty massive fireplace. In those days, I was a kid bricklayer, and I overdid the fireplace chimney. But anyhow, that needs repairing and is in bad shape. There is 8 thermal windows in that house, and you can see 3 of them there in the front. And those thermal windows are as old as that house, and none of them are thermal anymore. And so my heat bill is terrible. Now, you take a house built in 58, don't have the same insulation that the houses have today either. So my heat bill and whatnot is higher.
So tell me, Leo, how much with what you're saying, how much do you think your house is worth from, it was assessed at 109?
I tell you, we're working with so many fictitious figures today that it's just astounding. I built this house for probably $30,000, and considering my labor even at that time.
Yep.
I had a $12,000 loan and didn't spend 11,000 of it, and look what's happened in 60 years.
So that's what happens to most of the
Well,
properties,
yes,
but you
and
tell me what you think
We're
in
seeing an
this.
influx now
So-
of the
So Leo, to the
Californians.
point, tell me how much you think your house is worth then?
Well, if you took the last year's, was it 109,400, and say you raised it up to 100, even 120, 25, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not selling, so I don't have any idea what the heck these things are worth.
Madam Chair.
Everything's inflated so bad that it's unreal.
Okay, stop, Leo.
May I?
Commissioner DeSanto,
Joe,
please.
I have visited Leo's home, and I did see that those, whatever windows you called them.
I've got 8 of those.
Yeah, those windows, while I was sitting at his dining room table, they have condensation in between them. And so there's, in my opinion, there's quite a lot of work, even though it's a beautiful house, Leo. And I'd love to live there, but but I can tell you that there's a lot of work that would need to be done to that house if you were able to go up during certain times of the year and see that the windows are not sealed any longer, any of them for that matter. The deck out back needs work. So I mean, 125,000, I think is pretty low, Leo. But I would be willing to, did anybody make a motion yet?
Yep, the motion was by me and second by LaCroy, if I'm right, for 171.7. Do you have a,
I would make a substitute motion to assess the house at 167,000 as opposed to
71?
171.
Well, the 171 is the total for the land and the house.
Yeah.
So the house is actually 168,400.
I haven't even
Hold on.
addressed the land
Let him
yet.
finish, Leo.
Okay.
Okay.
So I
you're
feel that house could sell
for more,
for 167.
plus the land?
No, total.
I haven't
Okay,
had
there's been a motion and a second.
I haven't had a chance to speak to the land.
Yeah, but I'm.
Need to let us finish and make a motion, Leo.
I'm
Thank you.
including the land.
Okay.
The
so-
total assessed value of 167.5.
Okay, full assessed value be the substitute motion. Is there a second, please? Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second for discussion? Okay, now Mr. Leo, 167 is what they're saying.
No, I'm
67.5,
talking
right?
about the land.
167.5 for everything.
All right, in this, you see the red line here?
Okay.
That's the 49 acres roughly, or whatever it is. Now, if you look at the soils in there, part of that is in 2017 was valued at $7.91. And the rest of it was 67 and 78. Now, if you look at you got to pull up on that map showing that property. It's over here. Yeah, put that on up there where I can see it. Right here. Oh, all right. If you look at that.
Yeah.
They can see that picture there, I guess.
Yeah, yep.
All of you can see that? That timbered land is all worth about $10 an acre.
It's not buildable.
It's all rougher than a cob. It's across from my house there, and it's a big steep hill all the way. And I don't know if you could run 3 milk cows on that for a whole year.
Okay, guys, we do have a motion and the substitute. We're going to vote on the substitute if that's okay?
Does Leo know the 167.5 includes the land?
Yes.
That includes the
I don't know
land.
that he
Leo.
understands that.
Okay.
That's the total value of land and home is what
Okay,
I'm
guys.
suggesting, 167.5.
Okay, we do have a substitute. We're going to vote on the substitute. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Motion carries, 167.5.
Can I share a little bit with you folks?
We're behind already, Leo?
Stand it, but it'll be very quickly.
Yes, sir.
In 1948, the all government cost to our citizenry was 8% of GPN. In 2008, it was 40%. Now, this was by virtue of an article that was in the paper a couple of years ago. Now, after going through from 98 to present time, I suspect that could be well over or approaching 50% that government is costing us as a society. Now, you say, well, it's the Fed's fault, it ain't ours. As a commissioner, I sat here in your seat for 8 years, and as memory serves me, I was disturbed when the county budget went to $12 million, okay? At that time, as memory serves me, we had 70,000 people in the town, in the county total, roughly. If you take that number and divide it out, you've got about $170 for each citizen, is what county government was costing us in the time, in a time frame when I was a commissioner. You look at your budget you had last year was 96 million. And you had a population of roughly 5 to 7?
110.
105 or 7, I think I've seen.
Okay.
All right, if you divide that out, your county government now has moved in a 30-year span roughly, or 30 whatever years, from 171 to somewhere in excess of $880. And it could
914.
Huh?
914.
There you go. So, whatever we're doing, I'll tell you folks, it isn't sustainable. And I don't know when the crash is gonna come, but it's gonna come. And I just don't see any end in sight that's gonna be logical without a terrible, terrible bloodbath.
Thank you, Leo, for your time today, sir. You have a good day, sir. Shannon?
Caitlin Oster is here, but she didn't want to speak. Rebecca has a recommendation
Thank you.
on that parcel.
Rebecca?
Rebecca Sprode, appraiser, Pennington County Equalization, recommending land at 16,400, building at 87,000, for a total of 103,400.
Do I have a motion?
That would be my motion.
Motion by LaCroy. Is there a second, please?
Second?
Second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Rebecca.
Okay,
Shannon?
so for that last part on our schedule there, Blake and Katie Gardner, Chris has a recommendation on that one. The other three, CPP, Bridgewood, and Cole, are all phone-in hearings.
Okay.
Would you like to do one of those? We've postponed the Bridgewood and Cole till this afternoon.
Okay, let's do the Gardner and then the Rushmore, CPP Rushmore LLC, if that's okay.
Do Gardner first?
Yep.
Chris went to get something to eat. Let's call CPP Rushmore, which is Ryan Kite. There's two parcels. I think they're both land, right?
And the other,
Yes, Richard Rigg with County Assessor's Office.
hold on just a sec, or three. So the other two, at the bottom, Shannon, we're gonna do at 2:30 still?
2:30?
Okay, thank you. So we are continuing the bottom two, and we're gonna do, at 11, 10, and 12, CPP Rushmore 2 LLC,
Yep.
and Blake and Katie Gardner.
And
So this-
Gardner, we can deal with in the afternoon, because all Chris has got to do is tell you his recommendation, and that's it. We can do that anytime.
So we can do Rushmore LLC.
Yeah.
We can do it now, too, if you'd like.
He's got it?
Okay, yep,
Do
he's
it.
here.
Let's
So,
do it.
So he'll tell you a recommendation on that one, while we're getting a hold of that Ryan Kite.
Thank you.
Hello, Board. Chris with the Equalization Office. I got a recommendation on 49435. After doing an interior inspection, corrected data on the house, came up with a new recommended value of 42,500 for the land, 233,500 for the structures, for a total of 276,000, and the owner is in agreement with this value.
Okay.
That'd be my motion.
Motion by LaCroy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Drews. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
R3, you're up. Do we have,
I'll move over there. Ryan, can you hear us?
Oh, shit.
Joan is working on it.
Which one we got here?
Two Rushmores here.
I'm not sure. Which one are we doing right
68907.
now?
we're doing CPP.
Ryan, can you hear us?
CPP Rushmore LLC, the top one.
907 or 230?
R3, do you want to start with 907 or 230?
907.
Thank you, sir.
68907, please.
Thank you, sir. Do we have Ryan? Hello?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
You got to be a lot louder than that.
All right. I'm talking as loud as I can.
We can almost not hear you. If you're on speakerphone, I would suggest shutting the speakerphone off.
All right. Unfortunately, it is a dedicated speakerphone, and I'm literally yelling into it. Do you want to call me back on another, a later time here shortly, and I'll be on a handset?
We are behind right now, Madam Chair.
Commission?
Can't hear him, so
Can't
it's
hear him.
working.
Have him
Yeah,
call
we're-
back.
we can't hear you, so we'll have you call back later. We'll have one of our people call you, either Shannon or Joan call you at a different time this afternoon, for a different time this afternoon, sir.
That's fine. Just as a quick alternative, if there's a number I can call in on another line right now, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Okay. Hold on just a sec, Ryan. She's gonna try and call you. That'd be Miss Joan that's calling you, Ryan.
She's on the phone with him.
Okay, let's see if we can get him on. If not, we'll just continue him.
Yeah, this is the first one he wants to
Is that something we can zoom out on?
Go out, zoom out.
Like the. I'll bring it down to the south.
You want? You want?
What's the?
You want to zoom out further?
What's the store to the left?
This is Sam's Club.
Thank you.
Okay,
Ryan?
I know where it's at.
I'm here. Is this better?
Yep, that's better, Ryan. Thank you for doing that for us.
Great.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Nope, you're fine, sir.
Ryan, we are working on tax ID 68907. We're going to start with that one first.
All right. Would you like me to just outline my argument?
That'd be fine.
Okay. Well, I guess we need to look at 68907 and 68908 together to fully understand my argument. So I'm looking at the land values on a cumulative basis, which when totaled comes out to be about 2.688 million of land value. And that's an increase from the prior year on these two parcels, which in the prior year were only one parcel, of 2.169 million. So what has happened, obviously, is we've split the parcels for financing reasons, but nothing else has occurred at the property. So our ownership group felt that the increase in the land value of about $530,000 was not warranted.
Okay. Anything else, Ryan?
No, that's it.
Thank you, sir. R3?
Yes, what we have here, where the blue is the subject parcel that we were talking about, 68907. Right below that is another parcel that's 68908, and we're not dealing with that today. But this was all one parcel, as Ryan said, and so forth. They did plat this off and everything. It's a bare lot. As you can see, back up off the property record card there are some pictures there and so forth. It's a bare lot that is platted. It has its own legal description, and it can be sold as is right now. We have a schedule that we developed a year ago and so forth out here at Rushmore Crossing. The first acre of land is valued at $14.50 per square foot. The next 5 acres of a tract would be valued at $5.50 a square foot, and anything beyond that 6 acres would be at $4 a square foot. And when this got platted, the value went up because of this 1.95 acre lot that was platted off of that main parcel, and it's valued on its own. Because of the legal description and everything that it can be sold. I'm not sure what the financing purposes were. Maybe Ryan can answer that, but we have it valued the same as all the rest of the small acre parcels right in Rushmore Crossing there.
Thank you, R3. Discussion from the board. Any questions for Ryan or R3 board?
I'll make a comment.
Go ahead, Russ.
I have appraised a lot of property out in that area, new construction, and I'm familiar with land leases. And the two out there would be the Bradskys did a land lease on TGI Fridays, and then Robert Akers did one on Outback. And if I took that assessed value of 888,300 times 6.5%, which is fair enough, I would come up with an annual rent of roughly $60,000. And just based on that income approach, that value of being a standalone property right now, 888,300 is well supported. And if you look at it on a per square foot basis, it's 1045. And I've got market evidence that when you get out there where native New Yorker wings and things, I appraised that. That was in excess of 1045.
Those did sell for a little over $15 a square foot.
Nicole with Midland Atlantic was marketing those at $14 a square foot.
Yes, sir.
So the motion would be no change, 88,300?
Motion by LaCroy, no change.
88,300, no change.
Yep. Motion by LaCroy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Drews. Any
Can I
other
respond?
discussion?
Can I have a chance to respond?
Yes, you can, sir. Ryan?
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Nope, you're okay.
So I understand the arguments that it presented. What I think makes this unique, makes this parcel unique,
Just down to the.
is it has no visibility or access from Eglin Street, whereas to all those other out parcels that have been referenced as being appraised at the $14.50 a square foot, this parcel doesn't have that attribute. It sits directly behind Culver's and was again only split for financing reasons. This is right in the middle of the parking lot, and the building that will end up here is going to be built by us and made to feel like it's part of the shopping center. We're not marketing it for land lease. We're not marketing it for sale. We are literally marketing it to future tenants so that we can build their space and lease to them. So I think if you look at the site plan and see all the other lots, they're all up along Eglin Street and have highway visibility and are worth more because of that. But because of where this is located, it does not have that attribute and therefore does not have that value.
Thank you, Ryan. Board, do you have any discussion for Ryan?
What's current utility of that lot?
What's the what?
Current utility, what's it being used for?
What's it being used for, Ryan? That lot?
Is there just grass there for us?
It's just grass? It's vacant?
A little bit of grass and probably a little overflow parking, I'm guessing.
What percent?
Okay, my property manager is confirming, yes.
Brian, Ron Ross Connect has a question for you, sir.
What percent of the lot is it 100% usable, or is there some drainage?
I'm going to just refer to my colleague here for a sec. Is it 100% usable? Yeah. I'm getting nods that yes, we believe
Yes.
it's if not 100%, almost 100% usable.
With that being said, we know that when they were marketing the lots down there where the Holiday fuel station, that one sold, I think, for, let's just ballpark, somewhere between 12 and 14 a square foot. That's probably one of the most recent ones that I can think of on Rushmore Crossing. So I'm trying to figure out if that 1045 would be unfair, even though the lot isn't currently being used anything. If it can be marketed separately, I would think that the 1045 is a fair assessed value.
Well, I'll just make one last case for our side. The two parcels, one has a land value of $7 a foot, and the other, I believe, has a land value of $10.12 a foot for a blended rate of $7.76. My argument is that these two lots combined are going to feel as one center. We can't, even though we've separated them for financing reasons, the separation itself does not make that smaller lot a marketable tract for anything other than future development by us. So I feel like if $7 a foot is the assessed land value for the larger of the two lots that have been split, then there's no argument for more than $7 a foot for the smaller of the two.
Is the subject property currently encumbered by any type of lease?
It is not.
Okay. I'm thinking of the economy of scale. A larger lot, of course, is going to have a lower unit value. A 1.95 acre lot, that's pretty consistent with the lots facing Interstate 90. That's about the size of those. And being a smaller lot, it's going to dictate a higher unit price.
Well, it's almost a 2 acre lot, whereas I think the others are closer to 1 acre, at least the ones that we have sold.
Any other discussion, Ron? Any other discussion, board? If not, there's been a motion on the floor to uphold the assessor's value. Any other discussion? If not,
Was there a second?
yes. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Ryan, your second one, please.
I'm sorry?
You're on 15230.
Yes, ma'am.
Your first
Okay.
assessment is, we've stayed with the assessor's value, sir. Now you're on 15230.
So my informal discussions, I think there was an initial value placed of $14.50 a foot. I had some discussions with the Equalization's office who, my understanding anyway, is that there was a case for that to be lowered to $12 a foot, and that the assessor's office would make that recommendation. Is it safe for me to assume that that recommendation was not made?
Let's talk to R3, Ryan, and see what he says. R3?
Yeah, Ryan, this is Richard again. We sent out a valuation of $619,000, and I do have a recommendation of $513,800, which is that.
Okay, so there is,
That'd be my motion.
there's a motion by LaCroy to stay with the 513,
800.
800 from the assessor's office. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by DeSanto.
Question. So Richard, is that equal that $12 then? Is that what that number comes from?
Yes, sir. I believe it might be
Ryan, are you-
1203 or something.
I apologize. Follow up, Gary?
No.
Okay, sorry. Ryan, so the motion on the floor is the 513 that R3 had told you at $12 a foot.
513.8, right?
513.
513.8, I apologize. Okay, so all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Ryan.
Was that moved by LaCroix?
Okay, thank you.
second by DeSanto?
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
Thank you, Ryan. Have a good day. We're going to recess until 1 o'clock.